Hey, hi everyone. Welcome to another Saturday. You've got the Synth Geekery show. It's episode 269. We're sort of encroaching in that 270 sort of, just a number. How you guys been? Good? Let us know in the chat. If you're wondering, if you're new here, it's a show about synths and eurorack and modular and sequences like these things here. Drum machines, samplers, that sort of stuff. So stick around. We've got a whole bunch of stuff to get through today. As I always say, each week there's a lot. I should probably bring that mic a bit closer to me. News-wise, there's a fair bit to bite into there. So we should definitely have a look at that. There's some interesting products I want to show you in Price Watch that are for sale at the moment on the used market, and I think we should probably check those out, and a bit of funny side as well. But also don't forget just the regular things. Don't forget, guys, to support the channel as you can. So as I say, recently we've now moved across to StreamYard. Hopefully you guys can hear me in Twitch as well. We should be streaming on both platforms, so let us know in Twitch if you can hear us, and don't forget to say hi and all that sort of stuff. And then also YouTube, don't forget to you guys are already saying hi, I can see that there. So a couple of things, sort of housekeeping wise, with the show. I've linked up the top, pinned in the YouTube chat, is the Streamlabs link. This is for the tips that you guys want to put in. So there's nothing wrong with using YouTube tips. It's just that if you want to use them, it's completely fine, but just know that 30% goes to YouTube, goes to Google. Whereas if you do use the Streamlabs one, there's a couple of nice little bonus features that you get with it, and only 3% go to Streamlabs, so I get to keep more of it. So for example, if you tipped $100 through Streamlabs, they keep $3 and I keep the rest for the show. If you tipped $100 through YouTube, they keep $30 and I only keep the rest through the show. Kind of feel like it's a little bit of a bit much when you consider how rich that company is. But then again, they're keeping the lights on and the servers running for us, so let's not bog down too much on it. Now, couple of other things too. Don't forget, if you are happy with the stream, don't forget to click like and all the other sort of stuff that you do with YouTube, and follow and all that sort of stuff if you're on Twitch, that sort of stuff. So please don't forget to do that. And as I also say, there is a way to be part of the show. If you want to, you can be on Zoom. The link is that one there, Ranzee Zoom. So bit.ly/Ranzee Zoom. It's an easy one to remember. If you ever need it, just sing out and I'll post back into the chat at any stage during the show, including the chat in Twitch too. It's free to be on Zoom. There's no cost to you. You can either use the app, which we recommend because there's more features for your audio and camera setups, or you can just use your phone browser or your iPad or whatever you've got, laptop, computer. And I think we are good to go with the rest. So here's a couple of people that have joined us already for the show. We've got Chris and Andy and Daren already sticking in. I think we're missing Ian this week, I'm pretty sure. So I think we'll just go... If I can remember rightly, there should be 1, 2, 3, 4 of us only. I think that's about right. And obviously, we'll talk to the chatties in a sec as well. Right. So, why don't we start off with how's your week been? And I can probably easily pop over to Daren and ask him first. Hey.
I'll check my mic. Is my mic working?
It certainly is.
My week's been just average. The purple one put a video up last week. Wasn't my fault. Had nothing to do with me. He was doing that while I was at an EMOM because he wanted. He said that he wanted a purple track to be played live, so he wants me to rework that for live. And then I was just doing a test bed for some lighting, just to revamp, or I won't say make it less heavy because it's going to add a. Yeah, probably I'd say make it less heavy kit to carry, but increase the lighting effects. Basically, that's what it's. Other than that, I've not been doing anything else. I'm trying to keep warm. It's gone cold. And no, I haven't changed the studio as everyone says. Last time. I was about to, and then I thought, no, it needs to stay the same.
Awesome. I'm not sure if... Yep, I'm just checking out Twitch while I was talking to you then, Daren. If you are on Twitch, I can see no one in there at the moment, so that's fine. Well, hopefully someone pops into Twitch.
As you go on, I've put a little video on Facebook just to show my lighting test bed. I know Chris might be thinking of that. He likes to have test beds just to try things out first. So I can see what it will look like and control each of the 8 bars, so I know which is what I'm playing on each of them. So yeah, other than that, not done anything. I suppose that's taken up the week, to be honest.
Well, the purple video was interesting anyway. Let me say that much.
Yeah, he was. We
might have a little peek at that later if we've got time. All right. What else we got? We've got Andy from on the other side of the globe. How are you, mate? How's your week been?
Hey, everybody. Yeah, nice little nap, kind of, sort of. Still got the bed head. Not too much going on this week, music-wise. I wish I had more to report, but I didn't get a chance to do a hardware jam this week because just too much stuff going on. But I did. If you haven't seen it yet, I did go to Maker Faire last weekend. It was kind of fun. Did a live video there. I was talking to Chris about that. So if you like nerdy stuff, 3D printing and weird art stuff and circuits and all kinds of stuff. It's a little bit of everything there. Even crazy vehicles. There's a parade at one point. There's a guy with a little Chucky, the Chucky figure. There's a Chucky doll with a little knife on a skateboard going around with this knife. And it's just a crazy thing. You have to see it to believe it. So that was a lot of fun. Also, I did a astronomy stream, attempted stream from last Saturday night. Didn't have a signal, so I recorded it as a live video, and just did a premiere of it yesterday. If you guys haven't checked it out yet, rendering issue. The video came out huge, and it was taking forever to upload. I was trying to get a premiere at a certain time. So I could have the chatties come in and stuff, and then it was just nothing but problems. So I decided to re-render it with some changes, and in the process, the video got even more goofed up. Some of the moon stuff got cut off, and the titles got shifted when I forgot to move something back. So I'll probably have to repost a better version, but for now, some of the guys in the chat here were there, so thanks for showing up and chatting about the sciencey stuff. So check that out if you haven't seen it. I'll put a link in there later. But
yeah, I need to do that, and I was supposed to get on it, but I didn't have a chance.
It's my fault for having all these issues, and then it's getting so late for everybody. No one's going to show up. So I'm like, I'm going to do it anyway because I won't have time this weekend to do it with pub going on and a bunch of other stuff. No one's going to tune in to watch it if I don't do it now. I'd have to wait till maybe Monday. So I just said I'll just do it, and then the last maybe half of it, a bunch of people showed up, which is really cool. But Tracker Jack was there for the beginning, which is cool. He was there for maybe half an hour or something like that. It was really, really nice. So it's nice to do with people there. I don't want to do it by myself. It's there to share with people. So when people showed up, and it turns out I didn't make it too late, people that could actually show up and participate. So that's always fun for me. But that's all I had to report, mostly. Thanks.
Awesome. Cheers, matey. And over to Chris.
Hey.
How's your week been?
Yeah, bit crazy. Pretty full week. We're doing a bit of housework, helping everyone with the housework, and also been pretty busy in the workshop, building stuff. Ooh. And building more stuff today, and programming stuff, and it's always hard starting a new project. It's code for a new project because you've got to do a lot of deciding whether you're going to keep stuff from a previous project or start again from scratch, and then it's a struggle just to get to the point where you just get tired doing it and you can't hit the compile button because you haven't finished doing it, and yeah, it can be a bit frustrating. But the good news is it's going well so far. I'm not meeting any major problems. The circuitry is looking reasonably debugged at this stage. early days, but yeah, no, everything's going together right. So getting progress on that. Oh, that's just always slow progress, but that's mainly because I've been helping out a bit around the house. But these things happen. Dad's getting better, but he still can't. He couldn't do a lot of stuff this week, so I was ferrying Mum around doing shopping and stuff. So henceforth, well, I didn't have a great deal of time, but quality time is better than lots of time, I always say. Also, a couple of interesting things turned up in the mail. People at Eagle Eyes may know what I'm looking at here, but yes, what would I be doing with stuff like, in particular, what would I be doing with something like that?
I won't spoil it. Someone else can get it.
You don't know exactly what I'm doing, Rants. So even
that is true. I mean, I've got a fairly good idea, though.
Yeah.
It starts with M.
Exactly. Yeah, so experimental. But I had to get one to experiment with, and I haven't ever used one of these before. It's been a bit of a struggle getting this to work, though. I'm still haven't quite got it working yet. But yeah, no, it was a struggle just getting it to work on my Android phone to configure update the firmware and stuff like that. I'd nearly given up, and then it suddenly started working, so I just went update, because I figured the software not being updated was probably the reason why it was a bit unreliable. So yeah, I need to do more experiments with that. But and I've got another thing to show you. I have a purple box, and I'm not talking about Rave Dave's girlfriend. It's a little box
Ouch.
which has my MIDI through that I built a couple of weeks ago, showed you a couple of weeks ago, 3D printed. My mate came and delivered off some nice 3D printing that he did for me.
No, but I like to see you using the right colours.
I do love this colour. I do. I wish I could use it more, but I use it for important things, like it holds every PCB I solder. So there you go, very important colour. And apart from that, we've got lots of knobs. Oh, actually, I don't know if I show you the knobs, but did I show?
Make sure they go to 11.
Yes,
Be careful when you're showing your knobs. It is a PG.
Yes,
stream.
it is indeed.
Yeah.
Yes. I was trying to remember.
Yeah, just blur it out.
Oh, yes, a sneak peek at something. Do my knobs look big in these LED rings?
Ah.
The answer is no. It's not a scale problem. They are ridiculously large. These are just for doing some experiments. But the what I'm intending to use is something much smaller, much more. 2mm. These are 5mm LEDs, which means they're enormous. But I'll be going to 2mm LEDs at some stage. So that's going to be a project coming up. And I showed you that, so you see my witty stuff. So no worries. So back to me doing my normal thing. Yeah, no, I won't show you the knobs because they're over there, and I'd have to detach umbilicals and go and get them. But I made lots of knobs. My friend made lots of knobs for me, and why do I need so many knobs, you may ask? It's because they need to be fitted to the individual shafts of the whatever batch of little switches in the GP82 that I get. Unfortunately, because we're in sort of like the last, 10,000 that they ever made of these. I'm not going to run out, by the way. They're slightly different sizes and fits and stuff. And also 3D printing is a bit iffy when it comes to precision fits. So I have to do a bit of... some switches have to be rejected. Some knobs have to be rejected because they're too tight. And the smaller ones I can actually shrink with doing some special physics. In other words, I use hot water. And they actually shrink onto the switches and they make a nice fit then. So basically I'm individually fitting them. It's fiddly, but I'm finding quicker ways of doing it. So that's good, but it's just easier to get them to print hundreds of these things, and then I just pick the best ones. So that's it.
Fantastic. That's awesome. Over to me. I did get something new during the week, so I thought I'd share it with you guys. We'll probably check it out a little bit more in detail later in the show. But see if you guys can guess it just from the sound. And it's not a Name That Synth. I'm not going to do a Name That Synth. But see if you can guess it from just the sound. Here we go. Let me know if you can hear that.
Oh yeah, we can hear it. Sounding a bit cobalt-y, actually. Was it Moogie?
No, he's. Oh, you've got the Timberwolf out.
Nothing but the best.
Ooh. We have oscillator sync. Sounds alright.
Well, Chris was on the money. He was on the money. He was on the money.
Yes.
I got this little sucker during the week.
Nice.
I mean, really, such a no-brainer for money. It was, $349 Australian, £175, I think it translates to if you're in the UK, and about 199 US, I think they go for over the ditch. But, geez, I tell you what, this is probably the most easiest to manipulate in terms of sound that I've ever used. And I'm just really, really surprised that this thing didn't take off back in the late 70s. It just didn't take off. There was only a handful of these made. It's not like they weren't like a mass manufacturer, compared to other companies. Considering just how manipulative, I'm talking about the expander version too, because I feel like the original Cobol was probably not, it was probably just more like a mini Moog alternative. But with the expander options, with all this modulation stuff, with the voltage adder and just all the stuff you can do with it, there's a few things missing on it, which will probably peeve a few people off. But it was never there in the first place, so that's probably why Behringer done it. And don't forget too, remember what I said at first, the price. So yeah, it's insane. Like, just probably why some people may not like this is because you have to get these things out if you really want it to do some really funky stuff. And that's what all this stuff down here and up here is inviting you to do. It should have been called Patch Me Baby instead of Cobol.
So refresh my memory. How much did the original have patching? Was it much of a patcher?
The expander had pretty much all the things that you just saw.
It did. Okay. So.
Yeah. Yep. Definitely. Anyway, so I just thought I'd show you that. Other than that, it's been lots of sport for the kids. So yeah. Other than that, what we should do next is say goodbye to the chatties. We should go to the YouTube chat first, which should refresh now. And say hello to all the YouTubers. I mean, obviously, majority of everybody's right now is in YouTube, so that's fine. There's nothing against that. You guys are awesome. First person to come in was Wags with his googly-looking glasses, so big shout-out to Wagoo. Nice to have you early. I don't know if he's still there. Yes, he is. He's still there. Cool. And obviously, a massive big mention to all the YouTube channel members. I don't know if you guys had a chance to look during the week, but I did put a video up for members only, and I gave it I think it was about a 24-hour period for you guys to check it out for yourselves, and then it went to the public for the rest of the people. So I think, Chris, you saw it when it was on the members only section.
Yep, correct. Yep. Hot off the press.
Hot off the press, yep. We'll talk about that a little bit later, though. We won't talk about the actual topic of the video because we will talk about that during the show. But shout out to Human Error, to Sophie Music, Chris, of course, Exorb, and Mac is there. And you guys will see all of those people with green titles and a nice little Synth Geekery icon next to the name, like Steve Ward. And I can't see if there's anything else coming through. just yet. Keith and Watt had popped in. Yep, there he is. And yeah, and other than that, there's also Patreons, and I will go to that particular shot now. We'll talk about this. This will be updated, as I always say each week, but it's pretty accurate. These are our Patreons. Now, patrons would have seen that same video ad free. So they can, because now you can upload videos directly to Patreon. And if your name's not in the list, do shout out. I will update it. And if your name shouldn't be in there, renew. That's what I'm going to say. I did manage to get the Twitch Chatties up and running. So there we go. Twitch Chatties are running. Yay! So if you are on Twitch, we still love you. Look at that. Look, we are showing chat. Bang. See? It's live. It's probably a little bit small, isn't it? We probably need to zoom in. I don't know if we can do that with the Macs. Oh, yeah, we can. We can do the old command option. There you go. Isn't that awesome? Technology. We should probably get on with the show. I'm just going to close that chat down now because I don't really need that window open. It's Twitch is still showing 3 viewers. I'm conquering Twitch. I've watched Twitch streams where they've got like 4,000 viewers, and I'm like, probably because I'm not playing Fortnite or something. Yeah. There is a guy in Zoom, so that's Stephen Ward. I'm just going to bring him in now and get his audio working and put him on A as well so the Twitch people can hear him. And then we'll go across to our 6 up, and I'll bring you into that bottom left-hand corner, Steve. You're hearing us okay, buddy, by the way?
Yeah, I can hear you perfectly. How am I coming?
Beautiful.
I've just loaded this Zoom thing up. I don't know how to work it.
There you go, you're in.
Yeah,
you've worked it. And I can even full screen you. Look at that. Hey, look at yourself on Zoom.
Yay.
Hi,
Steve.
Hey, Steve.
Hey.
Hey, how you doing? You all right, guys?
We are good. We are good. Hopefully there's no there's no muting on that. Awesome. Any news from you, from your world?
Oh, it's been hectic with work and everything. So I was talking to Daren about it the other week. Just changing jobs and things like that. So.
Oh wow. So no more traveling for you. Have you got one of those?
No.
Or you got
my boots now.
Oh, you've got your boots now.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, no more traveling about. No. More time for creativity, I think.
Yeah.
Which is
sweet.
Important thing.
Staying in the old dart a bit longer.
Yeah. So no more data center work for me.
I've
Good
been
move.
there, done
Smart
that, got
move.
the t-shirt, mate. I know how you feel. No more 2:00 in the morning phone calls.
No.
Tech support. You know.
No more wearing a jacket at work all day. So
Yeah. Oh yeah. And the earmuffs.
Yeah.
Yeah, for the server.
oh yeah, it's so noisy. It's awful.
Yeah. Yep. You know, in the early days when I first started working in data centers, they didn't even care about your hearing. You just went in there as an IT guy, and you were just expected to do all the stuff. And I don't know how many decibels that place was, but it was pretty insane. Like probably
I used to use those
sort of
cross ladder racks and do pull-ups, not just to keep getting bored, but to stay warm. To pull-ups.
Oh,
that.
But the thing is, you
there.
don't want to sweat in there because then you might, because of the air conditioning. You might
There's a fine line. You don't do too much, but
you'll get hypothermia.
You get hypothermia.
Nasty.
Yeah,
I just used to wear puffy jackets.
It wasn't that cold.
I mean, around 20 something degrees was the average.
Depends. We didn't have some of the places I worked. We didn't have world-class data centers. We had like data centers, kind of, sorta, like a room
server
with air
rack
conditioning
farms,
and racks and a raised floor, but it wasn't like something you'd see at Cisco or something like that. So.
We generally have either hot or cold aisle consignment.
Yeah, we had those. We went about that far. That was about it. So.
Yeah.
Go hang out in the hot aisle for a while.
I used to build them for a living, so
Yeah.
we'll talk about that in another show. We
yeah.
should probably get on with the show. Speaking of which, we have regular segments coming up, so why don't we start off with our regular funny side. Yep, someone's been playing around with the sliders and thought that might be a funny thing to do. By the way, if you've ever gone to university, you guys will probably know that that's also generally what people draw on the whiteboards at university.
Yeah,
Pretty much.
Yeah, that would have taken a little bit of time sitting there. I mean, who knows how bored they were.
What? They're just fan of squids. What are you talking about?
I thought it was an amoeba.
Andy,
Actually, it's a flying saucer.
I don't know
in
if I need to
profile.
educate you people or not. Dear. We'll put. I don't know. When we put Steve in there,
Why not?
there you go. Steve, you can be
Nice.
part of the funny side session for it.
Oh wow.
So here's all the benefits of joining Zoom. Sorry, Andy. We still love you,
I'll be
Andy. We can put you up in the corner. There you go. Look at that.
I can close my eyes a little bit. Oh, there you go.
Dang.
My stream is that exciting. I have to share a comment with you guys a bit later. This one came in from.
Paint some eyes on your eyelids. So
It's
I'll just
fucking
move that out
glasses.
the way just for a
We can
sec.
take
This one
I'll
came
be
in
The
from.
eyes that come out.
I don't know if Robbie's in the chat, and also if he's not,
Yes, he
want to wish
was.
him all the best with his health.
He was in the chat.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. Same here.
Big, massive virtual hug to you, mate, and hopefully that you can get better if you're not already. We're all thinking about you. And also the same goes out to Henrik as well and his dad. We've had a couple of scares this week with some people. But back to Robbie.
Yeah, I'm chat with Henrik.
Robbie came up with this and it went viral.
Does well.
If anyone needs translating of this translation, he's in the chat. His name's Failed Muso. Right. Next. Kids, check your Halloween candy carefully. Someone tried to hide an Ableton Move in a Snickers bar. Wow.
Must be a synth owner's household.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to work out what the funny part of this is.
Visual.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
Like,
It's
okay.
kind of- It's only a visual gag, isn't it?
Yeah.
Really, not really a
Were they
great
playing with-
intellectual.
Were they playing with Mid Journey or something? And I don't know.
Nah, it looks pretty.
Although in
Photoshoppy
those late
to me.
70s, early 80s, they did make giant versions of some candies. Remember
They
those?
did?
Those they had like some. Yeah, they had like a giant. It wasn't a Snickers bar. It was something like one of those kind of caramel chewy bar kind of things. They had, they used to make these giant silly things for fun.
I
Or
reckon
big chocolate bars, just plain chocolate.
Probably the funniest thing about a Snickers bar that I ever saw was the character George on Seinfeld eating it with a knife and a fork.
I thought that was a Mars bar.
Oh wow.
Pretty sure it was Snickers.
Okay,
Yeah.
brain. The memory does funny things.
Probably
Might be.
Snickers. More popular in the US is Snickers.
Yeah. Makes
Oh, it
sense.
was a marathon, was it? A marathon?
Marathon.
I don't remember it being a marathon.
Yeah, it was in the UK. They were called marathons. They had Mars and marathons, and eventually they changed the name to Snickers
Yeah.
to
Okay.
I think for the rest of the world, whatever.
Well, there you
Still
go.
a
You gotta be
marathon
careful what you
schools.
name things in different cultures, so it makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, what else we got next? Oh, yep. This is the face when you just thought, I finally got enough money to buy that Digitone, and then they release the new one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's our
Has that
perennial
any?
problem.
Let us know in chat. Has that ever happened to you?
Yep.
Have you bought something? It doesn't have to be synth related. I mean, obviously, it'd be better if it is. But if you bought something and then literally the next hour, day, whatever, you've discovered
Almost.
Close.
that
Almost,
something
yeah.
new has come out to
Sleep came out.
replace it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it happened to me.
Wow.
I've got one.
Sometimes it's a good thing though. Like iPhone changed the ports. I wanted Lightning connectors, and all the new ones are USB-C. So I'm glad I got the older one. So
Wow. Okay.
All my
Uh,
accessories work.
while we're doing that, we can just have a quick pop over to chat because a few people are mentioning things of similar kilt. While I'm doing that, I'm just needing the time to set up because Ian's just joined us, and
Ian's popping in.
he's joining us from Zoom, so I need to get the 9 up happening.
No worries.
So just give me a sec while I do that.
Well, I can tell you what
Closed.
mine was. I bought a D110 second hand, and the day after they announced the D5 Boutique.
Ooh, that
And
sucks.
that's still with me, that feeling. Because I think the 110 I've got isn't really 100% functional anyway. It's got some weird issues.
Okay, I've got the 9 up
Pretty
ready.
different though, because the D50 did more than the
Oh
110
yeah.
did.
Yeah, a lot of people said the 110 was better than the D50, but
I can't remember if it's
different
D50 is
reasons.
killer.
I think that was the last meme. I think. Yes, it was. All right, so
we're in a trio.
do you guys
Hang
need
on,
a
just,
refresher, a memory refresher? I mean, it was only a few seconds ago that I showed you these memes.
Snickers, I forgot to write down the Snickers.
There was
We had 4, did we? Yeah.
some sort of phallic equalizer, graphic equalizer symbol.
I call it EQ art.
Robbie's FM linguistic lesson.
FM language. Yeah.
There's the George is able to move on a Snickers bar, and then this one you can see. Let us know in chat what was your favourite. I know pretty much which one I'm going to give it to, but I'll play the devil's advocate anyway.
I'll take the knobs made out of sliders. I'm feeling childish today, so.
Yeah.
Ian's popped back out and he's popped back in again, so let's see if I can fix it. So he would be 80 there. Okay, that's good. All right, so Ian should pop in just below you, Andy, if his camera's working. Ian, just to let you know, your audio is on from our end, so anything that you can't see or do or hear is your end, big fella. But you're definitely in like Flynn, as they say. I think we're going to give it to Robbie's FM.
Oh yeah.
I think that was
Worthy, but
worthy meme for the week. I actually really enjoyed that. Had a little chuckle. Hey,
well reasoned.
Hi, there we are.
There
Finally,
it is.
Hey.
let's
I love technology.
cross over to Ian.
Hello,
Yay.
greetings, Earthlings. Welcome to London. I'm currently sat in the members' lounge of the South Bank Centre. I've got about 15 minutes before we actually go into this talk that we're here for. So so I missed the memes. But I'll go for the stickers one.
Okay. You're going to eat that with a knife and fork?
Definitely, yeah, yeah. Yeah, so it looks a bit like this, really. It's quite. I've just walked outside because it's a bit quieter out here, but you know,
That's good.
but it's all good.
And you've been well?
Yeah, I've been fine. Yeah, I had my flu and COVID jab on Tuesday, so I felt a bit ropey on Wednesday. But apart from that, everything's good. Yeah, we got the bus to London today, which was. Then we got up early. I had to be up at 6:30, which for me is completely unheard of. But
Ditto.
you know, but yeah, 2 hours 40 minutes on the bus. It's fine actually. You know. So yeah, but we're only here for the day. So back to normality tomorrow.
Did you say 2 hours 41 minutes?
Yeah, from Frome to Hammersmith's bus station.
Ian, Kent wants to know if you're buying celebration tubs.
Absolutely not.
He said while he had his fingers crossed off camera.
Yeah. No, I've already had the cinnamon bun, so it wasn't quite as good as Walthamstow cinnamon bun, but not bad for the South Bank Centre.
Do you guys have the Cinnabon chain over there?
We have Cinnabon here.
Well, not that I know of. It's quite difficult to get a good cinnamon bun here.
That'll send you quite large very quickly if you ever get yourself
I'm sure.
indulging in that stuff.
I know. I love
Straight to your hips.
Yep.
Yeah.
Straight
So
to
one a month will do it, really.
you. One a year.
Yeah.
Calorific.
Calorific, yeah. Yeah. Okay, shall we continue with the show, boys? I think we should.
Go for it.
All right, Ian, you're going to stick around for a little bit?
Yeah. I'll stick around for as long as I can. If I just disappear, you know what happened. I had to go.
All right.
But,
No worries,
I'll stay for as long as I can.
He's going in.
Here we go. News time. Let's fix up the news first because I like it to be. Who should we put in the bottom? Because we've got We've got Chris, Daren, and we'll put Andy. Yay! There we go. All right, starting with the Teia OpticShifter. Now you guys are probably thinking to yourself, Ranz has found another one. He has. He has indeed. Calm down, Ranz.
They just keep on coming to you.
They do. I think people are like, I don't know, they're just thinking, I could probably build a bigger and fatter and faster and sexier looking phaser.
I think you've made them come into fashion, Ranz.
I think I might have. I mean, I was noticing the other day when I was listening to a lot of the music that's kind of on repeat, and we're talking, it's not like a repeat that you would sort of go, oh, there's 10 tracks and they're cycling through. This is kind of like maybe 1,000 tracks from various different artists. And one of the main things that I'm hearing in all the music that I tend to like is there's got some sort of phaser effect on a synth or a guitar that I'm kind of like, that sounds amazing. Anyway, not about me. It's about this, about the OpticShifter. And if you like stages, well, this has got 20, as you can see, and they're switchable. And you've got it on both the stage and the feedback stage side of it, which makes it extremely interesting. Now, there is a video on YouTube. Should we take a risk and take a copyright claim risk? I don't know if we should or not. The guy that's done it, his name's Daniel.
It's a different guy, yeah.
It's not the guy that makes it.
No.
So, I don't know. We'll give it a little look. Oops, wrong button. We've had that button. Let's try this one for a sec. Just so we can have a listen anyway. And there's a couple of different sort of... where should we go? Looking at the stages and feedback stages. And what else should we look at? Drums going through it.
That's fun.
Yeah. And some self-oscillation, which is always fun with the phaser. He gets there. Here we go. And we'll pinging the input. And modulating it via CV. Enough of that. Phaser effect.
Cool.
Yeah. Price wise, you're looking at 310. I think it was euros, that price. And it's by Teia. I'm probably butchering the name. Teia.
Looks right.
Teia. I'm going to go with Teia. Because no one mentioned their name. And have we shown a Teia product before? I don't know if we have. They do have a few things out there.
I don't think we have.
You don't think we have? Okay.
But I presume that's on your buy list.
Well, it's on
Or
the
at least possible.
it's on the buy list that's up there, and I can't quite reach it. Buy list.
Yeah, the unreachable one. Yes, I call that the win the lottery list. It's the first thing on the win the lottery list.
Yeah. What I would like to see, and I reckon some of the non-Eurorack people would probably agree with me here, is if you're a Eurorack manufacturer and you've managed to put this thing in a module, and the module's pretty decent size when you think about it, why not do a guitar pedal version of it as well?
Yeah, I'd buy that.
Some of the companies do that.
Yeah.
Dreadbox
is a good example.
Yeah, Dreadbox is great.
There are a few other, but yeah, it's not super common. It's a rarity rather than a...
I know it's a different voltage format. In some cases, it's probably a whole different kettle of fish for them electronically. But the main guts of the engineering is already done. All they've got to do is then convert, the power and the audio input and output, that sort of stuff. The op amp and the amplifier stuff. That's probably what they've got to play with. But yeah, I mean, if you look at the Dunlop pedals, they're 18 volts. So they don't have to be 9 volts. They could be 18 volts. And I'm sure you can get 18 volts to translate to 12. I don't know, Chris, you'll probably be better at this than me. Or is it 9 volts better to translate to 12? I'm not sure. I can't remember how the maths works with shunting stuff these days.
I'd go for more volts. So 18 volts would probably be the most handy voltage.
And have the energy heat dissipate somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is one of those things where I'm surprised I don't see more sort of Eurorack boxes that are in pedal form. Like, here's your pedal, and you just put a Eurorack module in it.
Yeah, like the 4MS ones. Yeah.
Like those kind of things. And I think a lot of people would say, oh, no, they can buy one of those if they want that. Yeah, but you don't get the right input jacks for pedals, and you've got to do that as well. So and that's not catered for. So it'd be cool if people did make Eurorack compatible pedals. It's untapped market.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't mind my pedals, even though I can do Eurorack. I don't mind the pedals because I've got quite a few of different pedals. So some of the Eurorack things, I think that'd be great in a pedal rather than me setting up all my Eurorack just for that. Like, for instance, like this phaser, for instance.
I think some Eurorack modules would be considered too fingery for some pedal users, and so they'd say, do their market research and go, yeah, not enough people would buy it in the pedal world to make it worth their while, perhaps.
Oh yeah, it has to be certain. Like,
they're a little bit more strict, in the Venn diagram of. Sorry,
I've certainly over the last couple of years been collecting a lot more pedals, mainly through EMONs, but yeah, no, I mean, I'm not adverse to buying. Yeah, I intend to use more pedals over the next year or so as well. More than what I've tended to do is like one pedal per item, and I've got to go. See you later, guys.
Okay.
See you later. Bye.
And with that thought.
Yeah.
Hey, Ranzee, do you have their other product lineup, the OpticTone Mk2?
I do, mate. Yeah, we'll show that in a sec. But before we do, what about Steve's there? Yeah. What about?
I was going to ask him what he thought about it.
What about we do that instead? Get the stomp, right?
Yep.
Which is basically
that'll do the trick.
Yeah. Put that next to that Eurorack module in a little sort of pod case. Yeah. That could probably solve our problem. Anyway, back to there. That's an option. But I mean, I always thought the stomp was a little bit pricey. But that's just me.
That's the thing. Isn't just the idea. It's the whole package of idea, price, timing.
Yeah. Like I was about to send IntelliJ an email during the week and say to them, You know, I would so buy your new Atlantics module, which is the SH101, you know, awesome synth voice module. If you didn't have the price at, I think that's $6.99 or something, and with the Australian dollar, it just pips over 1,000. And because it's pipped over 1,000, it means that I have to pay duty and I have to pay GST and which is like your VAT in the UK, and input duty and GST, and they put that on top of the postage price. So you are paying, you end up paying an extra $200 Australian, my money, just to have something here, which is ridiculous. I feel like emailing them and saying, "Can you guys just give us like $100 US discount?" And then we'd sneak under the radar, and then I'd be able to get it in without having to pay all these taxes. But oh no, yeah. Anyway,
if you had sent it, maybe they would have told you, "We advise that you have a talk to Perfect Circuit and make a deal there."
Or just fly over and buy it.
Yeah,
if I could find an airfare that cheap. Next is the OpticTone, which is, as Andy did say correctly. Now, this is a Vactral VCF. So if you're wondering, this is a Vactral VCF. Now, this is the second suck of the Sav. I think they had a OpticTone Mk2 a while ago.
Mk2, yeah.
I forget how many. I think it might have been 3 years ago that they brought that out. So the difference between, I guess, this and the old one is a few more extra features. I can definitely see. I'm actually looking at a graphic of the previous one, which I can show you guys in a sec. So down the left-hand side and the right-hand side, you've got these little sort of symbols inside a circle and switches next to it. So that's new. And then you've also got some switches above the drive and the feedback, which give you some extra functions there. So if I go full screen on this, which is it's the old video, you guys can see that's the difference there. So there's no switches.
Yeah.
Except for that
Well,
little
the switch
sort
on
of toggle switch.
The toggle switch on the right is the same as the slider switch on the right of the new one.
Yeah.
Because it's selecting your high pass, band pass, and low pass.
Because you have to have that.
Of course.
There's also
The
some
one on the
switches.
other side.
There's also some switches. Where's the other switches? No, that's not. That's it. Sorry. And the other thing too is it's 12 decibel multi-mode voltage controlled filter, so it does low pass, high pass, band pass, is what Chris said before. But the benefit to this, and the same with the previous version, is that you've got a Vactral controlled VCA as well, which is interesting because and we can hear the old one. There's a video that I'm allowed to show of the old one, so I guess tonally wise it's probably going to be pretty similar, but just to get some of those Vactral controls, do you know when you've got yourself a low pass gate and you think to yourself, geez, I'd like to be able to do more with it. I'm kind of frustrated with the controls I've got with the low pass gate. A lot of the low pass gates you get are either CV controlled, or you might have one little attenuator,
kind of baked in sound.
Yeah, and you can't really sort of manipulate the Vactral side of it as much, which I understand why they're doing it, because in most cases people would probably not like the result, because you're going to end up with kind of weird. If you know how Vactrals work, it'll be kind of weird, but some people will like the result, which is why these guys have done this. Anyway, let's have a look. This is the old one, okay, so don't... So let's do a filter sweep.
band pass. And high pass.
So one thing I noticed with that, just before he goes on, is is that a 3-0 cutoff? I don't think it is. Yeah. Anyway, that maybe he just didn't pull the knob all the way to the far left or the far right, but to me it didn't seem like it was 3-0, where the filter actually does a proper cutoff.
Right. Yeah.
So this will be showing the Vactral side of
In this
things.
case, resonance acts like the decay control of the pink drum sound.
Touch control. Which is that thing in the middle.
Oh.
So that's, don't forget, that is the old one. So
Didn't know that.
one of the things I liked about the old one is I just thought the filter sounded amazing. It just had that had a little bit of grit
Very
to
bright.
it. Yeah, so it was bright
Quite
on the
bright.
resonance, which you need because you need that percussive element, right? But I thought it had a bit of grit to it as well. So there might maybe a little bit of subtle. I don't know if the Vactrals are doing it, but it seems to be a subtle bit of overdrive maybe going through it. Yeah.
Certainly the new one has drive control, which sounds tasty.
Yep. Anyway, that little baby is 230 if you want to get that one. So it's a massive module for pretty much a filter with a built-in low-pass gate if you want to go there. Yep. They do talk about a lot more sort of technical stuff on it, so do check out the blog article, which is in that link that you can see below, and then we will go into it for you guys. Speaking of Eurorack, yeah, you want to say something before I go next?
No, I was just going to make the comment that I find these modules quite attractive visually.
Yep.
Which I know this show isn't about how modules look, but I can't help it.
I think some people buy
Well, it
modules
doesn't matter.
because
You
of the way
can spend
they
a
look.
fair amount of money. You want to look nice, so
Yeah. When
When
you've got
same thing with Instro and all those guys. They've got a kind of that gold look. Gold on black is. I want
when
some
you've
of
got
that in my
choice
life
too,
one day.
if you've got choice in the market and you think, okay, sonically these things are all going to deliver the same thing, you're going to go for look.
Yeah, that's the
And you
thing,
know
isn't
the
it?
colour for
Function.
that? Black and ionized purple. Anodized,
Well,
should I say.
Brent's
Yes.
happy about that. Yeah.
Yes, anodized. Yeah, anodized purple is good. Yes, well, even some of my modules, people have been requesting different colours on the knobs, so I've done a few batch of them to test and see how they go. So yeah, choices.
There you go.
People like choices.
Well, if you do like choices and you still think mutable instruments should still be around, you might want to thank Behringer because they've brought out more of their modules. And if you don't know what this one is, let this video ripple through you.
It's oscillators that usually get most of the spotlight. And after all, they create the building block of the sound, ties the world of modular, and make it accessible to the wider synth community. We're really excited to have a whole bunch of new modules like switchable 2-pole and 4-pole for the low pass.
This
and
is pretty
band
much
pass.
tit for tat.
It's got a wide
the ripples.
frequency range from 18 hertz to 18.
Let's have a listen to it. Thinking about the reverb.
Yeah, they can't help themselves.
Which is not in any of the Eurorack modules, by the way. Does kind of make it like the Victor, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, it seems like a good match. That's what I was thinking when I saw it.
Anyway, enough love for that. The Surges is only $49.
That's the thing.
That is the thing. So,
Wow.
That is the thing.
yep.
It's like
I do have ripples,
accidentally-
so
Yeah, and Ripple sounds
not-
amazing, doesn't it, Darren?
yeah. Well, hence the reason I got it. I got it just before they came unavailable. So
Yep.
Mm.
Yeah. I mean, look, I don't have a problem with these guys doing Mutable because Emily allowed it. You know, that was all part of the open source benefit. So we can't get like butthurt of them redoing things if the original manufacturer said, you know, fill your boots. And other people have been doing mutable modules for a long time, remaking them, slightly redesigning them and things like that.
Stuff, so it's only fair, I guess.
Yep. You know, we could talk about Arturia, like, couldn't we, Andy, with the Mini Freak, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Anyway, it's a filter. It's a nice filter. And I think $49 you got yourself a filter in a rack. What I would have liked, to be fair, and I know why they didn't do this, and that graphic there is absolutely shit because we can't look at the module properly. So maybe I should go back to the video. Let's see if I can get a better shot without his finger on it. The whole video, he's got his hand on the whole bloody thing. Let's just go.
I know.
So this one is a direct copy. There's no add-ons or tweaks or fun changes. They just
not that I could work out.
No.
I couldn't work out that they've done anything different. Darren would be able to tell us if there's any. I mean, we could probably get the graphic up of the ripples.
just looking at it, it can't.
It's thinner than the ripples,
9
I think.
outputs, yeah.
I think.
Yeah, ripples is kind of big.
Yeah.
Doesn't. How many is it?
8, is it? Or 10? My eyes say it's.
I will tell you, it's 8.
Well, there's ripples.
My eyes off.
Yeah, that looks like 8.
Yeah.
I'd say that's 8.
Totally differently.
And you know what? I kind of like the knobs on ripples better. And this is what I was about to say to you guys. I don't like the knobs on this.
Yeah. I know what you mean. They've been using those plain sort of probably 11 or 12 millimeter knobs.
Yeah.
Whereas the mutables knobs have a very particular sort of feel because they're
tapered.
tapered.
You can put it down now, Darren.
Yeah. So, I was about to collapse.
But I mean,
workout for the day.
It's a tasteful design if you like that sort of look with this, the printing
like
in the background.
And it's £100 cheaper than Ripples was, so
robots and disguise.
Yeah. Anyway, someone's going to buy it, I'm sure, and think to themselves, "Hey, I've got a Mutable Instruments Ripples." Well, check that out. I don't know. Electronically, maybe not. I'm not sure. You'd have to look at the schematics and everything if you really wanted to go there.
Yeah, it's weird. Quite often they modify something in the thing. Instead of just doing a direct copy, it's kind of weird.
Yeah.
They wouldn't edit something.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I didn't sit through the whole video this week. Just
I mean, they probably did
time
because
constraints.
sometimes they don't. Like the Model D is basically no frills, so they.
I don't think it's functionally any different, but
and it's only
49,
so they've probably just gone, we'll just do a direct copy.
It was
probably
possibly a bit of a design required for making it cheaper to produce. So there may be a substitution or two, maybe a simplification here and there.
All you got to do
Emily
is tool it up,
would
right?
have used, but Emily would have used pretty decent components, and that would have been the priority. So, whereas these guys have got to start with the price and work their way backwards.
Yeah. But there's so much room there for a fatter knob, for that frequency knob, The first thing I'd be doing is ripping that knob off and putting a fatter one on there.
Yeah, it is a
I
weird
can
one.
give you someone who'll rip it off for you.
Oh yeah, Dave. He'll put a purple one on there. All right,
Yeah.
we got some more Eurorack. Sorry for those people that aren't into Eurorack. Don't worry, we will get to some non-Eurorack stuff in probably the next product, actually. So hang in there.
Cool.
This one is
I thought you were gonna say in
by
the next month.
BlaknBlu, and this is the Oscar DSF. Let me just quickly grab my notes. It's a complex
Oscar.
stereo voltage controlled oscillator based on what they call the discrete summation formula. Discrete formula, if you're wondering what discrete summation formula is, it was used in Oscar DSF. So, yeah, you got that sort of harmonic-y, sort of partial type sound from an oscillator, which is kind of similar in a way to FM, from what they're saying anyway. This is what they're saying on their website. But they're talking about how this is made. If you're wondering the difference between the DSF, discrete summation formula, right? It's apparently more complex to do mathematically than FM. But as a result of that, you may actually get the results of the sound in a simpler way, or a faster way. So that way, the Oscar oscillator, as you probably know, it actually sounds more like a traditional oscillator, right? So yeah, let's have it. There's a little video here by them which they released. Oh no, this is not Oscar. This is not the Oscar. No, I can't show that one. I don't have any sounds for this. Sorry. If I do, I would be getting a copyright strike because the guy that has the video up is Red Means Recording. And last time I ventured down his pathway, he wasn't very nice to me.
No.
So, Jeremy, if you want to talk to me about it, you can talk to me about it. Anyway, that's BlaknBlu. Price-wise, we are looking at €280, and they've also got another module which I can show a video for because the manufacturer actually has done one, and that's this thing here, which is called the Foxtrot Duo. And the Foxtrot Duo is well, let's just check the video out. He'll tell you. He's quite funny, this guy.
Duo is a stereo VCF with 3 switchable filter models. A classic 70s Moog ladder filter, the crazy Salin and Key filter from the Korg 35 module.
Haven't we shown this before?
We've shown another version of this module, which was, I think it had 4 of them in there, or 3 or 4 of them. And I said, gee, they should make a single. Yeah, exactly. And I think I said at the time, geez, I hope they make a single version.
And the luscious state variable filter from the Oberheim SEM. Let's dive straight in and listen to the filters. Here's the Moog. Foxtrot Duo includes bandpass, low-pass, and high-pass versions of all the filters. You can sweep through the responses using the front panel control or the aux CV input. The Korg-style Salin and Key can be really clean, but push up the resonance and it goes pretty nuts. It sounds really good with a bit of overdrive on the following Alpha VCA, and it responds well to being overdriven with the boost switch. And here's the state variable or SEM filter. It actually sounds really clean and modern in many ways. And like the original SEM, it'll whistle but not self-oscillate.
There we go.
Cool. Well, I asked for it.
So $280 as well for that one.
Listened.
10 HP.
280.
280. Pretty decent module in terms of depth as well. It's only 22 millimeters deep, which doesn't include the power cables, by the way.
It's a nitpick, but I like when they put the module name at the top and the company name at the bottom. I don't know why they did that. So.
Yeah,
and
usually it's the other way around.
Font.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like
the font is
not sure either. Yeah,
the
I
brand
agree.
and the
I agree.
product.
Steve, are you into state variable filters and SSMs?
I am, yeah. I do like that. I'm just a bit put off where they've put the outputs on that. It looks a bit weird, right in the middle. Activity standpoint.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, and it's it's going to, when you've got the cables in there, they're going to get in the way with some of those switches and controls.
Yeah, whichever way you go. You've got a chance.
There's all that space below it, right? And they could have put it somewhere else.
Yeah.
You got a chance using the tendrils. At least you can take two out between the stereo and the resonance, and the right out between the mono and the cutoff frequency. And
but the tendrils will fight sometimes because the leads go somewhere.
So one of the other modules you mentioned, the phaser that you showed earlier, I just thought there was a bit lacking as well with these sort of the stages and the feedback stages. It's an ideal opportunity for an early to fall in there, I thought. As well.
Maybe the demo didn't push it. I'm not sure, but I know that once you start mucking around with the odd and the even, your stages and your feedback stages like that, there's a frequency central module that I've got, which is a phaser, and you can switch between, and you start getting some insane growly sort of phaser effects, which I thought you could probably get, but they didn't show it.
Yeah, I do like that state variable filter though on that module. It's nice.
Yeah. Chris, you've got a module that you got recently with the state variable filter in it, didn't you?
SEM, yeah.
The
SEM
SEM
VCF from what is it? G4 G something.
Yeah, I know the one you're talking about. We showed it on the show.
Yeah.
That one I think
that it's stereo as well. I think it's a good one.
That one I think you'd like more. The one that Chris got.
Probably would.
Yeah. Nothing wrong with this. Anyway.
It's a bit more conventional, and the outputs are in there.
Let's venture out of Eurorack for all the people that are throwing their synths at the screen, making this sound. And we will go into the world of Korg. And I pose a question for you guys. I know you guys have all watched videos about this thing during the week. I pose a question for you. What do you think about a manufacturer, and we can name a few that have done this now, that has got an original analog, absolute amazing synth, and let's all agree that the Monopoly was a fantastic synth in its day, and then they've remade it in its vision, basically, in its history, into a digital recreation that is probably nothing like it, in the sense that it's not analog at all, doesn't have any way, shape or form of an analog synth. This is not, by the way, when I'm saying this is not a slap at Korg. This is just an interesting thing that we can't ignore, right? But what it is instead, it's a virtual analog engine, but on top of that, it's a virtual analog engine with a lot of extra features. So I just think when we get into our Saturday Sonority, I'd like to pose the topic digital recreations of analog synths, and how well do they do them? I mean, my question to Korg is, how much is this going to sound like a Monopoly, the original? When we start delving into the features of this in a sec. So I was watching videos during the week about this because I watched it with a lot of interest, and there was one reason, and one reason only, why I watched it with a lot of interest, and that is I kind of got the sniff that, those 3 synths that they brought out over the last couple of years which were all this sort of similar form factor. They had the OP6, then they had the mod wave, and then they had the wave state, right? So if we throw the OP6 out to the side for a sec, because it's not really related, but if you look at the mod wave and the wave state, and you bring, say, most of the features that those synths have got, and then you go, okay, let's add a virtual analog synth, or an analog modeling, if you want to call it what Korg are calling it, into the furore, and then on top of that add some extra sort of features, which I'll talk about in a sec. That did prick my ears. I don't know if you guys sort of picked up on that as well. So it's almost like a combination of the other two. Anyway, let's talk about the specs. I mean, obviously I mentioned before, the whole thing is digital. There is 4 oscillators per voice. Because it is digital, they can fit this sort of amazingness in it. But with the oscillators, they can be wavetable, virtual analog, or analog modeling, and some other options in there as well. There's 4 different timbres or layers. There's dual filters. There's wave shapers with multiple synth sounds. You've got the chaos physics as well, and some effects as well. And the question then when I started looking at those stats, and I thought to myself, okay, so how is this different to the mod wave, and how is this different to maybe some other competitions out there, like maybe the Access Virus might even start being compared to this? And the answer I found was, versus the mod wave, the monopoly is labeled as an analog modeling synth, whereas the mod wave isn't. So that's the first one. That's pretty easy. But also, this particular synth, the multi-poly, includes the same wavetables as the mod wave, and it has 4 oscillators as compared to 2 on the mod wave. But the only thing the mod wave has over this, I thought, was that the mod wave has a few more hands-on controls over the oscillator part itself, and we'll see that in a sec, where you actually see the oscillator section. There's only a few controls, and it's kind of menu divey if you want to do the rest of the stuff. You can still do it, but it's menu divey. And the other question I had was, what is it like compared to some competition out there? And this is kind of where I thought maybe Korg have actually brought out a product that's kind of unique in a sense. I don't know whether this is true or not. I think time will tell. But 4 oscillators and a synth engine with multiple timbres, like when I said before, multiple timbres it can layer. It has mod wavetable, wave shaping, analog modeling, and a whole bunch of other stuff. And there's 4 oscillators that can do that sort of stuff. On top of it, the 4 oscillators can then, sort of using the modulation features, they can morph between each other, and quite configurable to do that sort of deep modulation options in this thing. It's got that chaos physics engine in it as well. It has that going for it. And the only thing I felt that it didn't have going for it was that it was only 3 octaves and there's no aftertouch. And a lot of people probably don't really care nowadays about the lack of octaves and aftertouch, because they can plug a MIDI controller in it and it probably has aftertouch in its MIDI implementation anyway. So, all right, over to you guys. Do you want me to show you the other version? I'll take Steve off for a sec. Yeah. So this is we'll just sort of I'll mute the sound, because I just want to show you guys a little sort of pan over what this thing looks like. You'll get to the section in a sec where they show you the menu. I think Lupop was kind of attacking the size of the screen a little bit when he was showing his video. There's the layers that I was talking about before, and I think it'll show the oscillator section there. There's a very little amount of control in the oscillator section. You kind of have to do it in this menu here. They do have a companion app that you can get to, and it's pretty good. But I always say, if you have to rely on an app, then you're having to rely on a lack of design.
And the app will eventually stop working. So
yeah, which is, if you're a Korg M3, I know you know exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah.
All right, over to you guys.
Side so.
Yeah, I mean,
They're
a lot
going to
of
do
their
a rack
synths have got wood.
version.
Got wood on it.
I wouldn't be
Yes,
surprised, Darren, if they do a like a desktop
I
module.
wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I think-
an SE for the expanded keyboard, probably.
Yep.
Just released.
Yeah, I'm. Sorry,
go-
Deadheads?
Let's go, Steve, first. Yeah.
I was just going to say, I saw a module version of the Wave State at SynthFest, so there might be a rack mount version of it.
Okay.
Yeah, I do like it.
So
But I
the-
mean, like you say, it is a bit of a. I was watching Luke's video that he did. Luke from Korg, and he always makes these things sound great. Anyway.
Yeah, he does. Yeah. Chris, I'm going to go to you next because you wanted to make a comment about it.
I like this. I haven't watched all of Loopop's video, just sort of part way in. But yeah, no, I'm always interested in this kind of form factor, but it's not so much the keyboard version. I'm sort of hanging out for a module. As you all know, I bought a Wave State Mk2, and I noticed that this thing really does have a weird overlap with that and the Mod Wave, which was the keyboard I was tossing up buying against the Wave State, and I had to choose one, and I chose the Wave State. This is even more attractive to me, so this could be exactly what I'm after in the future, because I don't expect these things to come in until 12 months down the track. But that's good. It's got something fun coming in 12 months. That's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, no, but I like this.
Wasn't the Mod Wave a DW8000 and a remake of that kind of thing?
Was inspired
Supposed to
by
be,
it, wasn't it?
Yeah, it has the same wave.
Taken much
tables
further.
in it. DWGS
Has
waves.
those wave tables, yeah. A bit like how the Wave State is based upon the Wave Station. But it's way, way, way above that.
Yeah, but they failed to put any analog filtering in it, which is very.
It has
disappointing.
it really has no, as I said, no acknowledgement to analog. These products, they're very firmly digital. So it's kind of like, if you have enough analog synths, then, you know, if you think you have enough analog synths and modular, you're probably hankering out after a bit of digital. But this is kind of middle ground. I kind of like the way it's sort of halfway between the two. So yeah, I'm interested, very interested.
Korg make good digital synths. There's no slap from me
That's
from
the
their
thing.
digital world. They make good digital synths, so that side of it I'm not going to be worried about. I kind of feel like though that I don't really see. I still am struggling with the relevance with what this has anything to do with the monopoly. It's kind of confusing to me.
It is pretty weird. There's a few products that's been out by a few different manufacturers that have been question marky, haven't they? But I guess
Roland have done it. Roland have done it.
Yeah, SH4D, I'm thinking, which is interesting because it kind of overlaps feature-wise with this. It's in a module form, and it doesn't have a lot of, it doesn't have the other stuff like the chaos and that long list of things it doesn't have.
Yeah.
With this, but there is that overlap of the two virtual analog machines.
It's kind of a lot different though to the SH4D. I feel like it's kind of. I mean, that came out a while ago, so yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it knocks it out of the park. It's definitely one of those things where you wouldn't. They need to do SH4D Mark II.
Sadly they go with name recognition a lot to try to get the marketing hype. It's like, don't just throw names around. Actually make it like the thing, if you want to call it that, right?
Yeah, in some ways Behringer got it easy because when they're cloning stuff, they've got a reason for it looking like
Yeah.
the thing that's cloning. Whereas, when
quickly
Roland and Korg try to do it. Yeah.
Quickly before
Sorry,
it disappears out of chat, sorry guys to interrupt. M-Block in chat wanted to know how many voices this can do. I think it's up to 60, and it depends on your layering and the voice architecture. So it's probably, in a lot of cases, if you looked at some of those patches, they were quite complex and they were morphing. I think this is going to be the big key to this, is the layering of sounds, the thickness of that sense, and the morphing between those sounds is kind of... This is why I mentioned Access Virus earlier, because I kind of feel like it's got a sort of feel to it.
Yeah, similar sort of power,
buttons
doesn't
and
it?
everything.
And sort of philosophy.
Yeah.
The button panels, the LEDs, the way the knobs are laid out looks very TI, Virus TI.
Doesn't it? Don't you think? And I think the sound
It
kind of
TI.
feels Access Virus-y.
A little bit naughty as well, but not quite, I'm getting all sorts of different...
Where Nord and Virus have a similar feel.
Yeah, I've always thought that
that's sort of
too.
what I mean.
Yeah.
I just think of Nord being...
They even, with the keyboard
really-
construction, they kept the module the same size, but had this giant keyboard attached to it because they didn't want to rebuild the whole core unit. So they had this thing that just had this empty space on it.
Yeah.
So they are also talking about the user wavetables in this as well. So that's always, if you're into that, if you like playing around with that, that's a handy thing. I never really find much luck with that myself. I've had synths, I've got synths here that you can do user-based wavetables in, and I have fun doing it and moving the sound around and getting to the point where I like it. And but I always find
Most people
that
don't be thrown it. They just take serum wavetables and put them in there. So
Well, that's actually not a bad strategy, because
it's not a bad strategy.
Someone's done the hard work.
Yeah.
It's
well, it's like transwaves.
sound.
Like how many
I want that.
transwave synth owners have actually loaded their own transwaves or made their own transwaves? Almost zero, because it's hard to get the linking to work correctly, the looping part, without these glitches and pops and stuff.
I felt also that
bit of work.
You were talking about SH4D, Chris. I kind of felt more Roland Gaia 2 to me.
Yeah.
And when we saw the Gaia 2, we probably thought, "Oh, that looks like a Korg." When Roland brought it out, because it looked like the mini log sort of,
didn't we?
It had no Korgness about it at all, other than the look. But now Korg have brought this out, and I kind of feel like the synth engine itself probably has more stats or specs that would lean it toward the Gaia 2, and that could be the reason why they brought this out, so that you're in a music shop, right? You want the guy that's working there to recommend a product to you, and you've got your competitor products sitting on the same shelves. So what's going to set that apart? And this is kind of a lot of the marketing strategies that these companies have. They know each other, so they bring.
Well, look
these
what happened with
competitive products
Microkorg.
out.
Microkorg is such a big deal, and the vocoder and all that stuff. And then the Mini Nova comes out, and it looks kind of like a Microkorg, and it has a vocal processing. And the JDXI comes out, and that looks like a Microkorg, and it has vocal processing, and same kind of form factor. So
yeah,
these guys tend to do that a lot. Yeah.
Speaking of
Playing
the
the same
Microkorg,
lane.
I thought this could have had the Microkorg screen in it. Don't you agree? Like that, this has got quite a small OLED display. I think Lupop mentioned this same thing actually. So this is not my idea. I think I've probably just stolen it from him. But when he said it, I was probably thinking it, because I remember looking at the Microkorg actually probably a few days ago, because I think there was an announcement through my feeds that they were available locally, and I went and had a look at one, and I thought what's cool about the new Microkorg is the new screen that's on it. It's actually really cool, because one of the complaints that everyone had with the Microkorg was it had that crappy little LED display, and and it really threw a lot of people out. But I don't know. They've got this display in the Microkorg. Why couldn't they put it in this, in the multi-poly? Yeah.
Yeah, it is a little bit. That is one of the questions I had as well. Fitting the wave sequencing in there and you got it running on that little screen. And it reminds me what's a little annoying about the wave state is the fact that stuff's on a small screen. That's where you're reaching for the app pretty quickly if you want to start sequencing. But I did like the step sequencer being on the not session buttons, were they? Yeah, but they called them something. The buttons, 16 buttons at the bottom.
This cool. Motion sequencer. Is that what you meant?
No, I was thinking the step edit, the session buttons, aren't they called?
Set list.
Set list buttons.
Set list.
Yeah, they're actually they also work as your step sequencer, which I think is new. But
a lot of these pictures that you're seeing are either computer rendered and then they actually go back to the actual product shots. So, which I find quite interesting.
There's a bit of mixing, yeah.
Yeah.
It is a bit strange, isn't it?
I mean, this really confuses me.
Yeah, I knew you were going to get to that one there, where they show them both, the monopoly, and then the only thing is, it's just looking it's looking the same design. That's all. They should
the same blue
together because, like you say, it's there's nothing. This is the new generations, like you say, like the wave state and that. So putting that next to the monopoly is like, no. It's just looks.
Do you think
like
maybe?
That's all.
I'm just wondering if they thought about putting in a bigger screen, but then they realised that the Chaos Pad would be the same size, and that stopped them from doing it.
Yeah,
I'd like it about the price
and the price.
You know what I mean?
No. I mean, it's
I would too.
$8.99.
In fact, I would rather them swap out the Chaos Pad and put in the screen there instead. Not in that position, maybe, but
we haven't seen the
SE
version, have we? So the SE version will be what is it, a 4 or 5 octave keyboard, whatever it is, right? Maybe a 5 octave keyboard.
Yeah, but they're going to keep the same screen.
Do you
think
always
do.
That's the thing?
Yeah, I think they will, Darren. I don't think they're going to change that because otherwise they have to change the software.
And they have to change their.
I think I'd be interested to see what they do with the modern pitch wheel and that Chaos Pad. That's what I'd be interested to see them do.
That's interesting.
So where's that going to go? Is that going to go to the left-hand side of the keys?
Yeah. You would think so, but then again, because we think so.
Yeah, it's one thing to have this number of keys and your mod wheel and your mod wheels and your Chaos Pad is still within reach of your right hand when you're playing the top key, but once you get into these bigger keyboards, then that becomes much more of a stretch.
It was definitely correct, though, that they put the Chaos Pad above the mod wheels because, you're not going to accidentally touch it while you're using the mod wheels.
Yeah, no, and also because any when you use the mod wheel, you often rest your hand somewhere, and that would be right on the Chaos Pad.
Well, there's a space for you to rest your hands, but there is 2 little buttons underneath, which is your octave buttons. All right, I feel like we've done that one. Sound-wise, I think just for me, I thought it sounded amazing. But it's a digital synth, and these days, most digital synths sound amazing, drowned in effects and multi-layering with fantastic sounding patches and that I would never even be able to get close to making myself. Yeah. But yeah, go for it.
Sounds more of those crazy patches you can't really layer with anything. So
that's the thing. The problem that is one criticism. Yeah.
The problem is it depends on the sort of music you're making, right? So if you're not like some of this stuff is very techno-y / abstract. If you're just doing sort of run of the mill, church band sort of stuff, this is probably not going to be the instrument for you.
Yeah.
Well, I've heard a few people complain about the wave sequencing 2.0, the patches on the wave state, for example, being all one-man band type patches. And which can be
drums
really annoying if you exactly. It's like really annoying if you just
the wave station had a lot of that.
Why do I have to?
Kind of how it was.
What? Yeah. Why? I know because that's the thing. That was what they were doing. They were showing off something that was new but it's not new anymore. It's kind of par for the course these days. So I think people would have preferred they kind of put that bit in the second half of the synth and have the front half of the set a bit more curated and a bit more modern in how people make music these days. So
Well, it's like
This
the
may
Andromeda
have a
came
similar
with
issue.
banks of arpeggiator patches, and it's like, how many arpeggiator patches did you need?
Yes. So
I don't mind the
it's
arpeggiator patches.
They're cool, but I
like
mean,
mucking
there's
around with them.
so many on there.
Yeah.
So many on there, and the synth could do so much more.
Yeah. All right. $8.99, David, was the price, since you asked in chat. US, that is.
Yep.
Okay. Why don't we...
same as the rest of them.
Why don't we give Elektron some love, because they've brought another product out.
Introducing Digitone 2.
It can sound like this.
Or this.
Or even like this.
It is the reimagining of an already potent box of FM synthesis into a multi-machine, many-realm reaching wonder, taking the evolution of digitone synthesis and sequencing to new heights.
All right. Let's go to this one. I did a few notes researching this during the week as well. I'm an Elektron fan. You guys know that. Probably thinking to yourself, we saw the meme earlier, I just bought the Mark 1, now I've got the Mark 2 out. Okay, so what is the difference between this and the Mark 1? Well, I think the biggest difference is this has got... So if you ever talk to an Elektron owner, they won't say this. They'll say the next thing that I'm about to say. But I think it's the 4 synth engines instead of 1. That's the biggest thing. So they've gone, they've gone gangbusters with your synth engine.
It's not just FM anymore.
It's not just FM anymore, which makes this thing pretty killer. But then you add this next feature, and that's what makes this thing absolutely unstoppable. And now it's got 16 tracks instead of 4. So the Digitone 1 only had 1 synth engine and 4 tracks. This has got 4 synth engines and 16 tracks. And then you can add all the other new bits and pieces that they have in it. Like it's got new filter modes, including a comb filter. It's got new Euclidean sequencer, and it also features some stuff that they brought out on the new Digitact 2 as well in here. So the sequencing additions and things like that. It's in the Digitact engine. So they've brought that across so people can't go, oh, but the Digitact 2's got this. Why didn't that have it? Well, they've done that. So I actually think this is quite a decent upgrade. I'm just interested to hear if anyone who has a Digitone who has got over being hurt, but they're bringing out a new one. Well, this is what Elektron do. So I've been burnt by Elektron doing this before. And it has been a long time since 5-6 years, I think it is, isn't it, between the two? So let us know what you think. Who wants to start with this one? Who here out of the video callers has got a Digitone? I think Andy, you've got one, right?
Yeah, Digitone.
And I can't see if Steve put his hand up. Steve, did you put your hand up? Shake your head.
No, I don't have anything.
You don't have one?
Digitone.
All right, we got it, Andy.
Now.
I also have Modal Cycles, which is the stripped down.
The stripped down.
Digitone.
So you got skin in the game. What do you think of this?
Yeah. I mean, hey, it's innovation. It's improvements. That's always good. As long as they haven't made it worse in any way, I'm all for it. I need to use mine more. I put it away for a while. I had a little rig for a while in a bag, or basically a power bank, 2 MyVolts connectors, and I could have a totally mobile Elektron studio with Digitone. And super powerful, super fun. But it's like the OPZ and lots of other stuff. The workflow is quirky. So when you get into it and you're in the flow, it's really, really cool and fast and crazy, and you can do wild stuff, as people have heard. All these people using Elektron stuff can do. But if you step away from it for 6 months, you're kind of learning it all over again, from my point of view anyway, because I don't use them that much like I used to. So anytime I get back to it, it's kind of a chore, because I have so much other choice to use other things. I don't use them that much. But when I was using them a lot, and I will get back to them eventually, they're incredible instruments. So I have nothing wrong with getting a new one. I mean, I have, a couple things were stolen, obviously. My analog keys was stolen, which I need to replace. But they never went too far they never made a new analog keys. They made a couple analog 4 versions, but they're slow, and there's no octatrack upgrade, is there? So certain things they never really upgrade, and other things they upgrade fairly regularly. So I'm happy to see they're still upgrading things like this. and the new features are great. New engines are great. It's all good, but they're not cheap. And again, it's a workflow thing. A lot of people complain about their workflow. So if you're not totally down with Elektron workflow, I get it, because it's quirky. But man, when you really get into how they function and you're kind of living it, they're hard to beat as far as getting things done quickly, ideas, workflow, and taking it down some crazy paths that you can't do easily with other gear. So I'm all for it. Yeah.
Well, Andy, what do you think of the new like engines? I mean, they were talking about the ones that you'd expect.
I haven't followed up yet. I don't know what the other engines are, so you can tell me.
Okay, so there's a new Wavetone, which is a new 2-oscillator synth engine, which morphs between oscillator shapes, and it offers things like phase distortion, which I thought was interesting. You also get your standard oscillator modulation, and there's noise in there as well. They also have this other one, which is, they're calling it Swarmer, which is pretty much, I think, is like a super saw sort of thing. Yeah. But it does have a lot of waveform control access to that on top of that, so you can pick shapes and then combine them and detune them and that. So that was kind of interesting.
That's cool.
Adding noise modulation sources to it. And the sound demos of that I thought were very, very cool. And I can see all the techno people going, this is amazing. And it also has an FM drum engine, which I loved. FM drums. FM drums are amazing. Because I used to love, the old computer games that had the FM chips in them. Nintendos and stuff like that. So I kind of feel like it's almost like the little Elektron handheld things that look like little calculators. What are those things called again?
The pocket operators.
Pocket operators.
From TE.
Yeah. So I kind of TE, sorry, not Elektron. That's what I meant to say.
Well, they're similar. They're Swedish. They make similar products. There's a
no, but I did mean Teenage Engineering. Yeah. I kind of felt like the FM drum sound reminded me of one of those. So yeah, I kind of liked it. And then all the other stuff is kind of, nice to have, comb filters, blah, blah, blah. And the 16 tracks is amazing. The digital engine should be able to handle it anyway.
That's the main thing. Yeah.
But I can see that Super Saw featuring in a #1 hit somewhere. I really can.
I guess one thing I would wish they would add to one of these types of boxes, which they did on the cheaper ones. If you go to model samples, model cycles, you actually get some velocity in the pads, which these boxes are clacky, just buttons, like almost like ASCII buttons. So you never quite get an expression in there. You have to go in there and dial in crazy expression and stuff, which is part of the process. But the samples and the cycles shortcut that and make it more like a groove box that people are familiar with. Yeah. With expression,
MPC,
and to have to dive in so much.
You know what, though?
Wish they would do that. Yeah.
I've never, with all the Elektron gear that I've had, I've moved it on now, but I've never had a problem with any of the buttons on Elektron gear. I know some people may have, but I've never had it.
It's not a problem. It's just you're missing things you have to work differently,
Yeah, okay. I see what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah,
where I was sort of
I've
going...
I've never used any Elektron gear because it's quite expensive, and I don't know whether I'll get on with the workflow, and that's the problem. I might do, and I might love it, but then again, if I don't, it's like, I don't know.
Darren, get the model samples and cycles so you can get them really cheap, and you can get a taste of it at least. They're pretty powerful little things.
I can't remember if I ever told you guys this.
I might look at the samples.
Darren, I don't know if I ever told you this, but you and I probably have similar sort of logic with the way Ableton and MPCs and all those sort of things work, and it kind of works with our brains. When I ever use an Elektron, I kind of feel like I approach it differently. So I kind of feel like you lay something down that's basic, and then you build on it. So you're kind of like, it's within itself, but you are layering it, and then you're doing, extra sort of features to those layers, like your parameter locking things.
Iterations.
So you're kind of like, it's like an edit on the fly, and it's getting more complex as you go. You're not really doing it from the start.
Like a DJ kind of.
Yeah. Like sort of like an evolving way that's the workflow that Elektron, I feel, is the better way to talk about it. I know, and there's also different ways you can attack Elektron's workflow, but I feel most people, if they started with that knowledge, hey, if I'm going to build something from a very basic point, and then it's going to get more
Simple loops,
in depth
yeah.
and complex as I adjust it as I go.
Yeah.
Then you're not sort of having to think about the whole thing at once and get all overwhelmed.
Yeah.
You're just taking small.
Yeah,
That's how OP1 and OPZ work as well. You just build layers and
evolution type workflow.
Yeah. I mean, you can get an Octatrack and you can start with a really complex thing from scratch. You can go, right, I want that first step to blah, 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 and go and program all the little cool things that one step is going to do. You can do that. And I feel like when people look at it that way, they go, oh no, this is like, it's like a tracker. No.
That's good comparison.
It's crazier than a tracker.
Yeah. It is crazier than a tracker. Yeah.
Yeah. But like Octatrack, I never touched. I watch Cuckoo videos. I watch a bunch of the videos. I say, this thing is incredibly powerful. I see why people love it, but it's too far. I'll do the Digitac, Digitone. I'll do some of the other ones, but the Octatrack was just it's way too nerdy for me.
One of the things that I feel like the Octatrack had over a lot of the other gear that I had at the time was that it just sounded so good. Like, I feel like the way Elektron has treated the outputs, they've gone to some sort of really sensible, decision, and with an engineering, an audio engineer and a sound engineer. They've gone, we want this stuff to sound absolute plum when it comes out. And I've always thought, like, whenever I've written tracks and I've used Octatracks, drum sequences and stuff in it, I've always thought, oh, geez, I love the sound of those drums. And I had rarely, you know how when you go and do your mixing and your mastering and stuff like that, I've rarely had to touch the drums from an Elektron.
They just sit.
They just sit so
They just
beautifully.
sit in the mix. Yeah.
Which is why a lot of DJs like them, because they'll go to a club and the club owner's not shouting at them because they're about to pop a subwoofer.
Yeah, it's kind of gig-ready sound. Gig-ready sound.
Daren, you know what I'm talking about. If you ever use a TR8 in a nightclub, the guy's running at you with fists.
Okay, here comes the 808.
Turn that bass down, you bastard.
Yeah, especially
Save
when
the
you
bass
turn it right up.
Yeah. That is one more piece of news for the week. And it's kind of not a product newsy thing. It's just more of interest for people. And that is this news. It's hard to read. Don't expect you guys to read it. But it was a Facebook post that came out from Modal Electronics. Now, we did talk about them a couple of weeks ago about how we were having trouble with their website. And there was kind of a weird sort of security error on it and all this sort of stuff. Anyway, so you guys, there'll be a link to this in the blog article. You guys can check out the Facebook post yourself later. I'm not going to go through and read it to you, but just a couple of takeaways from this. Obviously, their website's now working, so if you guys want to do any firmware updates for any of your existing Modal gear, it's there and it's working. But in that particular blurb, I got a couple of takeaways, and that is that there's now just a team of 3 people working in the organization.
Wow.
The parent company is named Ultronics, and it's not the Ultronics we know, Chris. It's a Chinese company.
Yeah, I remember that.
I believe they're from Hong Kong, I think, if I remember rightly. In fact, actually, Robbie will be able to tell me a bit more about this. But the good news is, because the parent company is slotted in, right, and you guys are going, wow, there's only 3 people. There used to be 15. What's going on, They don't forget, Modal Electronics had to stand up on its own before. As an individual company. Now, because as a parent company, the 3 people, so don't sort of think as an issue. It's kind of like these 3 people,
creatives.
Yeah,
3 creatives. That's enough.
They're important people that you'll sort of think. And then the Carbon 8, is it the one coming out now? The Carbon 8, Carbon 8, yeah. So that's obviously imminent, the release of that. I guess you can see there's a photo with a guy playing a modal synth there. And it's not the Carbon 8 though, is it? I think it's the Argon 8, isn't it? That one. Anyway, so I feel like it was kind of, when I first read it, I thought, wow, this is a bit kind of crazy. But then I thought, actually, no, this is actually probably good. and it's kind of like we're still here, we're still plodding along. We've done this. We know you guys have been asking for that, and it was kind of that sort of article. And I thought anyone who owns Modal gear will probably think, because there was another company that went under this week, and that's the ones that we were talking about were about to go under a couple of weeks ago. The Aodio Instruments, is that how you say it? Oh, Aodio Instruments. Aodio, yeah. So they are literally. I haven't got a graphic for these guys, but I just thought this is kind of like relative, right? So you've got one company that's kind of managed to sort of restructure themselves in a smart way, and then Aodio are now bankrupt, and they are ceasing operations as of the 1st of November.
Yeah.
They make great stuff. It's criminal. They all have the Silphio and the Anima Phi. And
there is going to be a lot of people that are going to be really, really pissed about that. Thankfully for me...
I'm also pissed about the Kickstarter that got killed. So
yeah, well, I mean, that's the big one, right? Yeah. So the Omega Polysynth was still in development. There's a whole bunch of stuff that they had going. I don't know whether someone like Behringer might be interested in like pulling out all that R&D and using it for themselves. I don't know. I'm don't really want to wish it on anyone.
Other companies have been saved by the French government before. I'm surprised they didn't step in and give them a boost or something, because it's happened to other companies before. So I don't know why they haven't done that, because they're a cool company. So
wasn't Jean-Michel Jarre rich? Can't he buy him? I mean, he's into that sort of stuff.
Exactly, yeah.
Well, he spared not buy so many flying cars, and maybe he'll have a bit of money left over.
Yeah, stop going on jaunts. Yeah. No, he's retiring. That guy. He's in his later years now. And I mean some sad news, I guess, with Aodio, I feel, but and some happy news, I guess, with Modal. So it's but I feel like if you look back over the history of synths from the early 70s until today, there's so many stories that have been coming and gone like that, and some of them we've forgotten about. And we talked about the Cobalt before at the start of the show, that I've bought the Cobalt. Chris has got one.
RSF.
RSF. They're no longer around. They haven't been around for a long time. And the amount of synths that they built was very, very small in comparison to Moog or Sequential or ARP, whoever was around in that day at the time. Roland, I think, was starting to cook around at the late 70s, so they were definitely there. And I feel like, this is another example, I guess. So, anyone been affected personally other than Andy? I think, Andy, you definitely told us your story about that before with the Kickstarter. But anyone else been affected?
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Yeah.
Let us know in chat if you have. Wags? What's happening with Wags?
He's had one Kickstarter.
Wagyu got into it. Manny was into it. A bunch of people are getting the Anima Omega. So.
Yeah. Like I said, if companies like this, if they maybe went down the path of open source, I'm not sure if that's a good idea commercially, but I feel like if you had fairly decent sort of legal terms and conditions and copyright and that sort of stuff, you could.
Well, here's the sad thing: they pretty much had it finished, right? They added the stretch goals, they added some other cool stuff to it. It was going to be a really cool, like, polyphonic aftertouch, probably MPE. I forgot synth with a bunch of cool stuff in it, and the demos sounded great. So I mean, they really had it. It just came down to they can't afford to make it.
Yeah,
they
can't manufacture.
They're almost there.
They missed the boat, didn't they? They really missed the boat.
Yeah, they're
in terms
almost
of the
there
costing.
because they really did it, and that's just ridiculous.
Yeah. I don't want to go into any speculation about what's happened with the money, because that's a completely different argument, and I don't know.
We talk about Rolly. Rolly had their problems.
Well, yeah, but
murky world.
If you do look at that Kickstarter page before it got taken down, there was quite a lot of money that went into it. and it's it's questioning about what happened to that money.
I haven't even checked. Is the page actually down?
Don't know. Haven't looked. Yeah.
Because they send email once in a while, but I don't always see every email. So.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Okay. Don't forget, guys. As I mentioned earlier in the page, earlier in the show, don't forget to flick us a like if you like the stream. Do that. It's a nice thing to do because it's not just about me. It's about all the people that are on here as well. So do that, please. And if you are wanting to support us, we've got the Streamlabs link there. Yes, it does kind of take your phone or your browser away off to a different website. And I can understand why it's not kind of being popular just yet. But for people that use Twitch, it's quite common. People use Streamlabs and Twitch. It's kind of like the Twitch universe. So do that too, please. Or just use the YouTube super chats if you want. I'm completely fine with that as well. We've got the pop-up engine working too. So if you guys want to try it out, it should do text-to-speech. So if you do want to do a tip through Streamlabs or a YouTube super chat, it will pop up on the screen. You guys will see it, and it will read out whatever you're saying, so you can have some fun with us in the latter part of the show. So
does it have an Australian accent?
No, it's got the his name?
It's got the woman's voice. No.
Brian, I think his name is.
Brian.
No, you got to put the Australian accent guy in there.
Not Bruce or Kenneth.
Yeah.
There was Macintosh English Bruce, that had a bit of a British accent to it.
I think his name's Brian. I'm pretty sure. Anyway, we have got this segment to get through. And starting off with the cheetah. For those who have marital problems, you can get yourself a cheetah. An MS6 multi-timbral synth module. I chose this because I've never heard of it, or if I have heard of it, I'd forgotten about it.
Yeah,
they were a Guitar Center hand for a while. They're pretty nice, but they didn't last.
Well, it's about, what is it, about £500-600 for this. Racks are so cheap.
Nick Bat talks about them. He
Yeah.
used to have one, I think.
So this is live on Reverb. You can buy this on Reverb. By the way, the links to all these auction sites that you're seeing on Reverb sites are all going to be in the blog article. I'll go through that in a sec with you guys. British made. Okay, never knew that. 6-voice polyphonic multi-timbral synth.
Yeah.
2 oscillators, DCOs, a CM3396, same as the Oberheim Matrix. Okay, 12 oscillators with
good.
pulse width mod.
It just had a horrible interface.
Yeah.
Didn't they have a keyboard version of it
to one.
at some point?
No, it's just a rack. They did have. This company made like a weird sampler that's incredibly rare. They made a few weird products.
We go full screen on this sucker. There you go.
Well, put it this way. You see how much of that panel is covered in the logo. That's how much user interface there is available.
Well, it's an LED screen, so it's like the old.
That's
like
an
an old
dead giveaway.
guitar rack. Like, who wants to use an
Yeah,
LED screen
like
all
an
the time? It's terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like an FX unit.
They did make a keyboard though, didn't they? Not necessarily of this, but they did make a keyboard because I'm sure I've seen it in one of my Commodore
maybe
or
Well, you
Amiga.
can Google it while you're checking it
Sounds
out.
vaguely
Yeah.
familiar.
Definitely.
I think
Google
you're
it.
right, Darren.
Oh, you mean
Seems
like an
familiar.
add-on for something, like a controller?
I can't remember what it was now, but I remember seeing this particular cheetah in. I can't remember if it was an Amiga or a Commodore Studio Mag back in the early 90s.
But yeah, look up their old
Brings me back in.
sampler. They have this crazy old sampler that's nutty and super expensive.
Awesome. All right. Well, I knew nothing about it, and then I read that Orchestral Maneuvers in the Dark had one. So then I started listening to some of my favorite OMD tracks, and then I realized, hang on a minute, they wouldn't have had this in those tracks because this was
Until-
kind of 90s, right? So
Yeah.
And then
It was late 80s.
wasn't a massive fan of OMD in the 90s, to be fair. So I kind of thought, okay, cool.
That's the thing. Bands have different eras.
Yeah.
Where you may or may not. It's like Pet Shop Boys, for example. They used particular gear.
Well, watch out,
when
Darren's
they were
here.
touring.
He'll slap you.
I know, but they did use particular. They did heavily use some particular modules in their tours, but they didn't record with them. There's a few items like that where you're just going, yeah, and that's important to note. Sometimes you may hear different things in the album, even though the artist used that extensively because they were in a touring phase. Yeah. So not everyone records on their albums.
Well,
with what
obviously
they
we've
use.
done that.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the tracks that they play live now is not used with the original kit that on the album track. Some of it's even VSTs, as long as it gets close to it.
So this, before we move on, this is going to sound a little bit like a Juno with a Prophet filter. Is that kind of the right sort of feeling?
Something like that, yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
But I remember seeing these in the rack when I bought my Emax 2. They were selling right next to the Emax at Guitar Center.
Okay.
In the rack.
It's got the SAM 3396 sound chips in it, same as go behind Matrix 6 and the Matrix 1000.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. The Matrix, Matrix 6.
Yeah.
Sounded good. It's just as horrible editing.
Looks pretty similar as well. The Matrix 1000.
Similar sort of adage.
Layout and everything.
Okay, something else that was kind of weird is this. I don't remember these. The Rion Driftbox, the tabletop synth.
Oh yeah.
It's a pretty cheap sort of price. I don't know how. 200,010. I guess it's getting a bit old in the teeth.
I think they had a few flavors too. There were a couple different flavors of it.
Darren might like this. Let's go to the live shot.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't remember this, but it looks quite interesting.
So £250 will get you this, Darren. There you go.
Oh, cute.
Got some
think I did
controls.
see this, actually. I'm sure I've seen this in...
we might have shown it.
No, I think I've seen one. I'm sure I've seen one before. It rings a bell.
Yeah.
There's a bit of knobbage for you there, Darren.
Exactly, and it's green as well, because that's what my live rig is.
I think he's got a damaged knob. I think that's what he's showing there.
I hate those knobs with the little set screw. I hate set screws.
Oh yeah, your finger starts fiddling with it, doesn't it? Because your finger thinks, like, what's this little gap here? And you find that you start mucking around with it.
They're also very hard to lock on and they get pulled off. And a bit of a Rave Day problem, yeah.
But if you have the round shaft, you have to have those, right?
So 2 VCO mono synth, right? Is that what this is?
Yeah, looking at it.
I forgot. I remember they were out for a while, but I don't remember much about
What year was it made?
DC 5
Made in
volts.
Japan. Oh. I thought Wags used to tell me about these guys for something to do with Roland Wigoo. Was there something to do with Roland with these guys?
That is an aluminium jiffy box, straight from a catalogue of a Mauser catalogue. I'm telling you now,
straight from
AliExpress. I've got a couple of them sitting in a thing over there for this kind of project.
Yeah, I may say. Oh, it just looks so.
Andy, this one's sitting in Winnipeg in Canada. So, yeah, might be nice and chilly up there. Hey.
Yeah.
Korg imported them from the UK. I knew there was something to do with either Roland or a Japanese company. Okay, so Korg imported them from the UK. That's what it was, right? Right.
Interesting.
I still think there was a Roland thing to do with them. And Wigoo's onto it as well. Let him find it.
Yeah, he said there's some Roland thing. I'm sure, because did they ever call a Roland drift box?
No, it was always Rion. I remember Rion before.
Someone will find it anyway. Why don't we go to the next?
Yeah.
The next is this, which is the MAM.
Roland Driftbox R.
MAM. Excuse me, ma'am. Can you show me your ADXi? Or ADX1, I think it is actually. This is an interesting looking thing, isn't it? Hey?
Yeah, I've seen that before.
About $1,000 in the UK for this. Let's head on over to the
Drum?
auction.
Yeah, it's drums.
The auction.
It's
Yeah, that
drums.
mam is.
That's a drum
Got a
synth.
mam, but yeah, that is quite rare.
Really seen on the market and hard to come by.
Drums,
Sadly, I need to
drums.
part with mine. It's a fully functional, in great shape. All channels and knobs work with over 50 knobs for sound shaping and fantastic modulation capabilities. It's an easy to see why this analog drum synth from the 90s is sought after. So it is from the 90s. Okay, let's have a look-see. So what do we got? We've got analog drum sounds. I guess we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 channels. So 5 sounds,
Yep.
and these are all your different shaping tools. with
Yeah,
it.
Vermona, as he said there.
Yeah.
The Vermona, the
Individual
MX1.
outs, MIDI as well.
Oh, yeah.
Made in
Yeah, MIDI.
Bavaria.
Nice.
Where's Bavaria? Is that South America? No.
No.
Oh, it's
Southern
Europe.
Germany, right?
I'm kidding. I'm
Yeah.
kidding.
That's the reason Vermona
That's
took up that.
That's where we get
I
the
was
pretzels from, right? The good pretzels.
So you've got
No,
master. Okay, so
Tasmania.
it sums it on the master left and right. I wonder if there's little panning controls or something. That's why it's done that. Ugh, don't do that, please. Don't show me that.
Velcro.
Oh, show me the other. It doesn't show me the rest of the outputs. Just blurred version of it. So it looks like it does look like it's got outputs for each individual voice. I think.
Depends. Is there it should be 10 if you get 5 trigs and 5 individual outs. It would be add up to 10. You can count the number of jacks and get a guess.
This one's sitting in Phoenix, in Arizona. Hi to everyone who's sitting in
Arizona.
Phoenix in Arizona. I definitely have some people from Phoenix that watch the show. I've definitely spoken to people from that part of the woods.
I worked with some people in Phoenix and Arizona remotely back in my career.
It's going to get very interesting there coming up. That's one of the battleground states. So
Yeah, but also because below it is New Mexico, right? So you've got that sort of interesting thing going on with the New Mexico issue as well.
There's a wall down there.
We're not going to go into that right now. Right.
talk about crumpets instead, right? Yeah.
Let's have a look at this.
Oh, sequential tom.
Yes. And this is another interesting
Haven't
one.
heard
There's
about
all
this for
some
a
really
while.
interesting ones this week. Very interesting products.
very
I've
nice.
got one more after this, and I know that there's one guy in this show that will absolutely love the next product. Anyway, Sequential Tom is a 4-voice drum machine that was mid-80s. I'm pretty sure it was analog, right? I'm pretty sure.
I love the logo, like it's a high school jersey, kind of like Letterman sweater. Tom.
Yeah.
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 I mean, it was functional. It did its thing. There was that mid-80s, wasn't there, where everything had to have the, telephone style push button.
That's right. You need to have a keypad
Like
so
the
that you
Korg,
can prove that you were digital
SP1200.
and modern.
Yeah.
the Korg Poly 800, the SP1200, everything kind of went down this push button route. And then they used those horrible copper
bubble
concave
switches.
bubble switches, which would
Yeah.
always fail.
Membrane
Oh, yeah.
keyboards.
Yeah.
Yeah, membrane. Vinyl
Yeah,
transfers.
they failed when they were new, never like
Oh, was this digital?
years later.
Because this has got cartridges.
Well, those dumb bubble switches
was-
are on the Atari 2600 joysticks
Yeah.
inside the joystick.
There you go. Nice. Doesn't surprise me that Dave did that. Okay, and the last one, which I definitely think you guys would be interested in, well, one of you guys specifically, is this sucker, which is the Arturia Origin desktop synth.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this
I
thing
got
till
one. Great.
talked about this thing till we're blue in the face.
Well, Goo and I are fans.
Yeah. But if you're wondering what this was Arturia's attempt at making a VST synth. that you could bring your VST patches into. And they did a really, really good job of it. They just forgot to continue the software development. Yeah.
In the forum, there was people talking about leaking the unfinished one that had a few extra goodies in it, but I've never seen anyone release it. There was an unfinished firmware.
Yeah, I've got a friend who's got one in Perth, where I live, and
the problem with this guy is the encoders. There's a real encoder issue.
Yeah,
things
around the screen. Yeah. Yep.
Oh man, it's just the jumpy encoders.
Yeah. And it desperately needed a touchscreen, didn't it?
Yeah, eventually they would have done that, I'm sure. They had a keyboard version that's really weird. Have you ever seen the keyboard version?
I have,
with
yeah.
The weird screen? Yeah.
That's what my friend's got. He's got the keyboard version, and it was expensive.
Yeah.
It was really expensive.
Oh, yeah.
But it was actually really, really cool. It was kind of like an iPad, with VSTs in it, without the touchscreen. But, reminded me a little bit of the M3 a little bit, the interface. That's what I remember. When this thing came out, I thought to myself, oh, I've got a Korg M3, I'm good. Because the interface reminded me very, very much of that.
Yeah.
Well, the funny thing about this is it's like early software modular in a module, right?
Yep.
But then you go to the EMU command stations, and they actually had software modular inside. You just never saw the patch cords, but software would reveal that if you use some special software.
But $2,000. This is sitting on eBay. You could probably make them an offer. It's in Wisconsin, by the way, Andy. So it is. I mean, you don't need one, but
they're really nice. But it's the old TAE, so they may not sound as accurate as some people like the newer or Arturia stuff that sounds. This is the older stuff.
I think they're 32-bit too, right? 32-bit. So the VST stuff would probably, it'd probably sort of have stepping, aliasing, that sort of, that
yeah,
sort of
there's
stuff.
definitely some of that.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's part of the character too. So it's but it's funny, you can mix and match. I want an oscillator from a CS80, and I want a filter from a Jupiter 8, and I want that kind of stuff. You can mix and match things, which is one of the beauties of this thing.
Indeed. Now, what were you guys sort of thinking of getting this week from all that used stuff that I just showed you?
Trying to remember the Origin, Tom, Cheetah. What did I miss?
Brion Drift, the MAM drum machine, a sequential. Oh, you said Tom. Yeah.
Yep. The MAM.
Yes, man.
The analog drum. That's it. I'd probably go muck about with the analog drums. I'm a drum person, so.
Okay.
Well.
Cool.
I'll
All right.
a little drift box.
Yeah, that Rion. Yeah. Did we go answer that? Eventually, I didn't.
It's like an ambient machine, I think. The drift box, just like a little ambient thingy.
Now I'm scrolling up.
I have to look at the Tom again because I'm always confused about what that was. It might be exactly what I'm interested in.
Anyway, I do want to move on to the next segment, which is our Saturday Sonority segment, which really doesn't have a stinger. I do actually have a stinger. I do actually have one for this, but I just never use it. Who would like to see the stinger for it?
Go on. Is it got tumbleweed going past the stinger?
Gross kind okay.
I don't really get it, but anyway. All right,
Talking
here we go.
of that, I was taking some ambient sounds when I was on holiday with my microphone, and there's this guy starting a bike up. It wasn't a Harley, but it looked like one, and I thought, this would be great. So I stood there very quietly as he started it up, and this woman walked past with a pram, and I'd got the wind deflector on it, and she went, "That's a really nice hairy one." Right in the middle of the guy starting the bike.
Oh, that one's for Dave then.
So the bike starting on the album was completely wasted, but yeah, so that'll be probably on there somewhere at some point.
I had the same thing, but nowhere near as funny as yours.
I'll be saying back to him.
we had this really nice thunderstorm coming through, and I thought, it's late at night. There'll be no one outside. I'll go out there with the Zoom recorder, and I'll record. Because you know what it's like. We're getting thunderstorms where you can hear them in the distance, and then they sort of rumble, and then they start getting a bit closer, and it sounds amazing in the stereosphere, right?
Surround as well, yeah.
And this friggin' neighbour decides to come out the front and have a massive argument with his wife.
Yeah.
It's like 2 in the morning, and I'm like, oh,
been there. Yes, that's ruined a few recording sessions I've done too. The neighbours.
All right.
Always in the middle of the night too, just going.
It was not a Saturday night because I was doing the stream. It was probably a Sunday night. All right, let's roll the stinger. There it is, Saturday Sonority. See, I did have a stinger. I've had one for years. Probably who's ever watched the show will probably remember it. Before we get into anything, I do want to give Max T-shirt shop music merch plug. If you guys are obviously interested in getting yourself a Eurocrack T-shirt or everything in modulation with the Synth Geekery logo on the front. So there you go. Synth Geekery shirts. They're available now, even in kind of different colors. So do check that out. Little plug for him. Leave the money on the fridge, Mac. Now, just kidding, buddy. Saturday Sonority. So I poised the topic. We don't have to talk about this. This is just me coming up with topics during the week. I posed the topic digital replacements, and we looked at the multi-poly this week, and we thought, is it really a monopoly?
Others, or?
For synth,
Sorry,
cardboard cutouts. Yeah. So while we're doing this segment, don't forget, if you guys want to join us with Saturday Sonority, you can on the Zoom call, which Steve's done. Steve's in the bottom left-hand corner of our screen with the Zoom logo spinning around his face right now. bit.ly/Zoom. I'll chuck this link into the chat.
Hang over it like this.
So you guys can't complain that I haven't given it to you. Even though I give it, people still say, where's the link, Ranz? They don't actually have that accent. There you go. And I'll do the same for the 5 people that are in Twitch.
They probably can't give a Twitch.
Right. Links are in. If you guys want to join us, don't forget you can. The 9-up is ready for a whole bunch more. Look at that. We've got space for more people. So we'll do the 9-up as people pop in if anyone wants to. Okay, so digital replacements. So I don't know. The first one I think that ever came out was probably the Gaia, right? The SH. Was it SH1? I think they called it. And it was nothing like the SH101, right? So that was a digital replacement. I'm just giving you some examples. But the multi-poly, is that a digital replacement of the monopoly? I say probably not. What do you guys think? Has there been a digital replacement that someone's gone, that's been a really good option? That's actually really good. You said boutiques. Digital boutiques. So
yeah.
Like the boutiques.
That one, Daren?
Pretty good.
Does that one work?
That one works, the 303.
Yeah.
303.
T3,
let us know in chat too. What you think? Do a super chat if you want to see it animate across your screen, or whatever. Refaces, yeah.
Yeah, the refaces. Yeah.
Okay.
So you can even bring VSTs into that because that's digital. It's just not actual it's just not a physical hardware your machine.
This segment's going to be all Roland. Maybe. Puricelli.
Well, they did a lot, didn't they?
Let's pop Puricelli in.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Pop in.
Let's pop him in.
Pop in and say hello.
Pop in, governor. All right, you're in. I just need to pop you into this little screen.
Ooh.
Get your camera working,
He's in
fella.
the staging area.
All right. Once he gets his camera working, he's in. There it is. Look at that.
G'day, cobbers.
Hey, Robbie.
Good day,
G'day,
Robbie.
Robbie.
And Robbie,
Yeah.
he didn't send them. I have them here.
What,
Oh, hang on, Darren's showing you something. Hang on, wait. Keep it up. Hold it up.
He's not got his willy out again.
I said he
look at
did.
that.
Oh, violet pump of violets.
Oh.
Ready for
Yes,
eating.
he didn't send them. I told him not to.
Oh. Memories of the 1970s.
We can still get squishies here.
Squishy. I mean, do we have? I think we had squishies over here.
Yeah, squishies.
Squishies. Never heard of them.
They're a UK lolly.
Robbie,
Never heard of them.
I don't know what to say. We've had them on the show for a few years now.
This show
And
should
now
be
there's multiple
sponsored by them,
varieties.
shouldn't it, Darren?
Wow.
Yeah, you're telling me.
Powered by squishies.
Yeah. Darren and I have sat here munching away on squishies all through the show for many years.
They're just like
I
chewy
thought you were
gummy
talking
things, or
about
what are they?
drugs. When I thought it was a euphemism for doing hard drugs, chewing on squishies. No? Okay.
Robin Banks chewing on squishies.
Shipping them inside your ESQ1 as you go through customs.
You've got a bunch of squishies in here.
You know, you guys know that's why people bought ESQ1s, don't you? It was purely because they had a lot of space inside to
stash the
Yes.
drugs.
A lot of
Just
weed.
ask Pete Townsend, he'll tell you.
Dear, oh dear.
Right. So, yeah. What do you guys want to do? Do you want to look at the Behringer Cobol?
Nah. Does sound nice.
How tuned is your VCA?
How tune's my VCA?
Yeah. Does it go click, click, click? If you
Oh yes, I can
give
make
it
it
no.
click. I can make it click.
Okay.
In a sec. Yeah, it's clicking now.
Yeah. But if you turn down your volume of both your VCAs, of your
It's like that issue
oscillators.
on the
Yeah.
mini log.
Yeah.
The clicky
Yeah,
bit.
so you're not getting, your gate is not generating a click. Congratulations, your VCA is correctly calibrated.
No, it's generating a click. Can't you hear
Oh,
that?
yeah, you might need to tweak then.
Yep.
You might need to tweak the pot. And yeah, you can get rid of it by adjusting the tack, but that's kind of not the point.
So Ranzee, what's a known famous track that uses the Cobol synth? You can actually hear it.
Famous, I don't know, but Magnetic Fields Part 4 has an amazing bass line in it, which uses the Cobol. Famous, I would probably say...
That's famous, though.
I'd probably say Vince Clarke and... what's the song? Nick did it when he did his review. Nick did it.
Really?
We've just got another one joining in, so I'm just going to get them up on the screen. And where can we do that? We can do that here. There you go. Hey!
G'day,
Hey, buddy.
G'day.
Any ladies in the chat?
Nice to see you again, mate.
Thank you.
How's everything been going with you?
Oh, things have been good. Things have been good. Been practicing a lot of piano.
Nice.
Yeah.
How's your
But yeah, I'm
how's
just
your
You play synth.
how's your
You're not supposed
D50
to go to
going?
piano. You play synth.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't play it as much of a synth. I play it as a piano, you know. I'm learning.
And your D50 still going good?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, awesome, man.
I love it. It's way better than my mom. She got a new, I think it was a furniture piano by Roland, and yeah, this one's so much better. And I think we paid her on the same price.
Do you tell her that?
She won't listen.
Do you rip into your mum? Hey, mum. Mine can do like 4,000 sounds, and Johnny does one.
Since she bought it, you know, like, it's the best thing ever. So, but yeah, no, this is an amazing keyboard. So glad.
Yeah. Cool.
Lovely.
Yeah. Anyways, I'm just enjoying the show.
Awesome, man. Yeah, stick around.
Ah,
We're just chewing the fat now. It's Saturday Sonority, so anything goes. I mean, some people call this the pub, but
Pseudo
I think that's stealing it from Kent. Yeah. Pubish. So bring up any topic you like. Go for it. If you don't have anything to talk about, I can talk about stuff that
sitting on the
Robbie would hate.
Chatter.
So during the week, I did the video with the Nest Tamers. So I'll just go full screen there, so you guys can see these things here, Nest Tamers. So the whole point of that is to keep cables from, flopping around in the breeze, and you just tuck them away like that, and that's the whole point of those. And you can see Robbie loves this stuff.
Well, I was going to
he has
say,
dreams about it.
I was going to say eventually they're going to make modules with all the wiring behind the panels, and oh no, that's a proper synthesizer.
Ranzee, do you think the plastic will stand the test of time on those Nest Tamers?
I have to say it's pretty. I mean, there's the box here. It's pretty flimsy. So yeah, I don't know. Pretty flimsy.
Is it
I'll
flexible,
do an overhead
flimsy,
for you.
though, or is it likely to crack? I mean, it looks like you can kind of flex them quite a bit. But, they don't snap. They're not brittle at all.
Sorry?
I still prefer the rubber cable ties. Those are my favorite.
Yeah. Yeah, I got some 3D printed ones, and they've all snapped off now. I've taken them all off.
Yeah, that's the problem with sometimes anything that flexes. You have to print it in a really particular direction.
Unless you get a vinyl, like a heavy 3D print.
You know how there's different plastics, right? And some plastics are soft, and some plastics are brittle. This kind of feels
waxy. This
kind of feels brittly.
Yeah,
and I feel like if I kept bending this back, I reckon it would definitely snap.
Okay.
So,
but does that mean you start buying longer cables because you have to start routing things through these? So instead of going from like 2 inches from one side to the other, you end up with a foot cable to go all the way around to where you want to get it.
You mean
I think there's
the tortuous route principle.
I think if you just read the signals that don't change, like your clocks and things like that, and just leave everything all connected that way. It's like the guy at the E-Mum last week. His rack was exemplary. I mean, there wasn't a cable out of place, but I was talking to him about it.
Something.
Yeah, I mean, it's just essentially everything stays the same apart from the modulation, doesn't it? So you just used to just keep everything patched.
These were the things that I came up with. I can't remember years ago. You guys will remember because I've shown you this before. So you buy those things, right? Yeah. And then what I did is I just snipped off one of the ends. See how it's been snipped off with a pair of scissors? Yeah. And I haven't got them in here, but it means that you don't have the two lining up. You just have one, and then you can slide the cable in that little sort of circle bit there. And these these you could angle. The whole point of that, you could angle at any point. It's not sticking up.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
And they're sort of like a standard thing that you can buy from any electronic shop. Let me just grab the other one that feedback, or it wasn't feedback. It was CMS Lab. They had a routing matrix thing that a few people were getting sort of excited because they thought, oh wow, this could be like an UP 2500 sort of thing. I'll just grab it. One sec. Do entertain yourselves.
There are a few companies that made those pin matrix things.
Yeah.
Seen a few.
I grabbed this box thinking this might be it, but I haven't even opened it yet. It may not be the right box. It is the right box. Hooray!
Yay.
So this was CMS Labs, which is one of the collaborators that works with feedback modules. Okay, so let's move the cobalt out. Just one sec.
It's not cobalt, it's cobol.
Cobalt. It's my nickname.
If you put a bolt in it, it will be a cobalt.
Like Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, cobalt, little dog wolfy thingy.
All right, so this was his bus system that he came up with, the CMS Labs guy. So you'd have these little passive pin headers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you guys have probably seen this before. They connect up to your buses. So you can have like cable routes going through different parts of your case. This is kind of like a switch matrix thing. You don't need this, but you can. I mean, it's actually a pretty cool idea. But let's say you'd have something like this bus 1 on the end of your case, right?
Mm-hmm. And this is not in your case, Ranzee?
No, I haven't. I've taken it out. I have to put it back in because don't forget I've rebuilt my case. So you put these things on, right? And then that connects up like that. And then you connect up the next bit to here. You know, you guys get the idea, right? And that connects up. And then that means now that electrically pin 1 is connected to pin 1, socket 1. Do you know what I mean? Like that's all connected now, unless I've got it around the wrong way. And then if you connect these up, you can actually send different buses to different destinations. So that's the whole point of that. So this was kind of almost verging on a sort of take with the ARP 2500 with that sort of theory where instead of it being a slider switch, this was a rotary switch, but it's got the numbers around it. Okay, and those numbers correspond to the pin, the ports here. So you can have something going in from bus A and you can route it to any of those destinations. Does that make sense? So you'd have an input going A and now that's going to 4, so that would come out 4 here. And then you could go, oh, hang on, no, I don't want it to go to 4, I want it to go to 3. And that 3 might be plugged into a module, whatever.
Yeah.
So that's the whole point of that, which I thought was pretty cool. Yeah. And in a sense, you would use less cables because all of that stuff sitting underneath your modular, like what Robbie was saying before.
Yeah.
But the only thing negative, I guess, about it is it's all passive, right? So
so you can't molt.
You can't molt, yes.
Yeah.
Well, I use the A189 by Deptford for hooking cases together. So it's a similar idea, but it's just basically you can take them apart and have cables going across. RJ45 between them. Yeah, it's really cool. But it's just point to point. You're not getting a bus for lots of connections, right?
No, it's not. It's not a system.
I got some of those in my case.
They're really cool. They save them hours of time.
It's a good idea between cases.
Yeah.
But you have to use twice as many cables because you're patching over. So.
I've got them in these cases. Yeah, those. They link the two together.
Yeah.
Oh, they're great. Yeah, they're cheap.
This is the one I was going to do EMON with. This set of cases.
Cool.
So I'm just plugging the cobalt back in, and it made a funny sound.
Sounds good.
And we all laughed.
That's what we bought them for.
Yeah. Right. Anyway, Rob, why not? Why don't you like it? Why don't you like this thing? Is it because it's got that logo on it?
Oh, no. It sounds very nice, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. If it sounds nice and it works, then yeah, go for it.
In terms of analog synths that have got that immediacy with the different sort of waveforms, that where you can, like, if you put this on an oscillator, an oscilloscope, sorry, you would see that as you're turning this waveform control here, the same on both, that it goes from triangle to shark tooth to sawtooth to some sort of weird pulse looking sawtooth to square to pulse and then pulse width. And each one's, like, in between each of those you get some sort of in between bits, which is kind of interesting. So, you know, if I put the filter all the way up, all right, if we did this, let me turn the effects off. Let's go to there.
Your resonance is on 5, which is why it's a bit soft.
There we go. If I go any further to the right, it'll go to pulse width. But what's interesting is that you can go with one of your patch cables, you can go, right, with an LFO, I want to modulate that waveform, so basically I don't have to now do that. And it's now changing.
Neutron also.
It's now changing all the waveforms for me. You can do it quickly. You do lose a bit of bottom end on that resonance.
Oh yeah, you do.
Wasn't it kind of supposed to be a mini Mogi type of synth when they released it?
Yeah, it was supposed to be. Well, the original
So
the original Cobalt was, yeah.
Yeah.
But then they brought the expander out, which has all this patching.
Yeah, it kind of went away from the core concept of Mini Moog and more into their own sort of vibe.
But the other thing you can do, I
was just say the IK Multimedia Uno synth, even the very first Uno synth, the basic one, that does that. You know, it has multiple waveforms, and you just blend between all of them, and then you can just assign an LFO and do that kind of stuff. It can be quite nice.
Same thing with the Sub Fatty.
I was just seeing what the oscillator would sound like with the oscillator going into it. So the second oscillator. Yeah. But I kind of feel like with a lot of the synths that do the waveform shaping in a digital format, I don't know. I liked it, but I don't think it sounded the same as this. And that was kind of I kind of, it's, Nick talked about it in his video when he did, I think about 9 months ago, he did a video of this, and he was saying to me that, not to me, to everyone, sorry, that he thought the oscillators sounded quite unique in that sense, and it may be because it's using its own. It's a 24 dB filter, but it's not a Moog filter. It's its own. They made their own, probably for legal reasons, right? But it does have a bit of a ladder filter sort of feel to it. Probably is a ladder filter, I guess. Who knows? And I don't know whether Behringer have gone in and done it properly, or from what I've been told, they've built all the oscillators and everything correctly in accordance with the original schematics. That's what I've been told. But we've been told this stuff before with Behringer, and they bring out Mark II and Mark III.
Yeah.
Right? We talked about Mark II, Mark III, or Mark I and Mark II last week with the SH101s. But, yeah. So anyway, I kind of feel like, for me, I definitely like the oscillator sync sound. That Yazoo song is sort of coming to mind right now. That was probably the famous one. You remember that one?
Don't Go.
Right, okay.
Don't
Right.
Go.
Yep.
Don't Go by Yazoo. Yep.
That was a Cobalt.
Oh, that thing in the background, that's the Cobalt.
Yeah, well,
Nothing.
yeah.
Lazy part
Vince
of the
Vince used it in a lot of songs. Actually, I think he may have even used it in Depeche
Sequencing
Mode
that
as
is
well.
really good fun.
Just
It's a
before
very
he finished
boingy
with
sound,
Depeche
that
Mode.
song.
Yeah. So Wagoo was saying that Rob from AM Synths analysed the Behringer Cobalt expander and was impressed. And that's good enough for Wagoo. If Rob gives the nod. Yeah. The other thing too is speaking of bass, this has a really nice bass sound. So I don't know if I'm going to get this right, but hang on a sec, we got to turn that off. This could be a bit louder, couldn't it? It's not very loud.
Now you're talking.
I just think it's nice. It's got a really sort of unique sound in that some of those waveforms. I think if you look at the oscilloscope, especially the square waves, they're not like your standard perfect square looking ones. They've got a slope to the top of them, so they're kind of like you straighten up and down lines, and then you've got the little sort of slope on them. And some synths, I just can't remember off the top of my head that have got that. I personally tend to like that square wave shape more than the perfect square ones that you see with some of the other synths. I don't know what it is about it that does that, but maybe it might give it a bit more of a buzz on the square sound, like a bit more of a sort of fizz or a bit of buzz on the oscillator. So
CS80 is a funky square also.
See, yeah. I don't know. Anyway, enough about the Cobalt. Just during the week too, Base Station 2 came out here. It's been sitting in a cupboard for about 2 years, and I brought that back out. And I
just the AFX mode to it.
Oh yeah. I was playing with it for hours. And
it's fun.
I've had that synth for a bit since about 2014. So that's such a cool little mono synth. I mean, technically not even a mono synth now; it's a paraphonic synth now.
Yeah.
But I don't know who's got a Base Station 2 here out of you guys. Am I the only one that's got one?
The BS2, and I also have the mono station, which is a BS2 and a groove box.
Yeah. one of the things that, because of all the different firmware upgrades it had, start getting a bit teary now with some of the the reasons for those firmware upgrades. But yeah, they have turned it into the original one that first came out. The first base station 2, not the first base station, was quite basic. But then, because it had DCOs in it, they were able to sort of do some firmware updates to, especially the oscillators. And for example, now you can change the different waveforms on the sub oscillator on it, and it turns it into a 3-voice mono synth, which it's like mini Moog territory now. So it's insane, and that's what I was mucking around with. I wanted to see different filter. Well, it does have a ladder filter in it, but different sounding. But I kind of wanted to see
total software control that really allowed them to do lots of crazy stuff with that.
Yeah,
it's great.
Yeah, I think maybe the filter lets it down a little bit. That would probably be my takeaway. A few other people have said
we get 2 filters
thing.
though.
Yeah, you got some acid filter which doesn't sound acid at all.
Yeah. No.
It's
the acid was supposed to sounds like a wasp a little bit.
Yeah, but I still think the wasp filter sounds a lot better than that. So
because Huggett worked on this as well, the BS2.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's the thing. Some of those firmware updates, that's what I was saying. I was getting a bit teary when I was thinking about all the cool things that he'd done to it since it first came out, and I was just thinking to myself how cool this little synth was. I'm a massive out of all the synth designers in the world, I think Chris is probably up there with being one of my favorites. I love the Peak. Novation Peak is insanely cool synth. Base Station 2, I love it. It's insanely cool. Yeah. Wasp, pretty cool. What about you guys? What have you guys been doing during the week? Anyone want to take over? Been talking too much.
I've just been trying to get my head around Bitwig.
Yeah?
Big studio. Yeah. Really powerful.
Speaking of modular.
Really powerful.
Yeah, it's very modular.
Oh my God. Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, within 10 minutes, I was messing around making tracks, so it was all right. It's great. And it's got a polygrid in it, and you can make your own modular stuff in there, and you can do the same with effects as well. And it has a feature where you can do notes. So you can set up your own note things with sequences and arpeggiators and all kinds of stuff. It's got loads of logic in it as well for people that like modular stuff. Yeah, so it's really powerful. Yeah, so I've just been messing with that. Yeah.
So this,
and like I said, I was messing with my lights.
Yeah.
These were the Bitwigs, the Ableton guys that branched off, weren't they?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. They've been going. It's been out for 10 years though, apparently, so it's good. And the guys at Bitwig were really good, because I contacted them because my trial ran out, and I contacted them and they were really supportive about that. So I'm going to look at getting that. Yeah,
cool.
I've got it here, but I think it's out of date. It's like version 4 point something. Pretty sure they've updated it since then.
Yeah, it's Bitwig 5 Studio is brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Yeah.
Fair enough. And are you an Ableton person normally, Steve? I can't remember what you said.
No, it was FL Studio, but I could never really gel with it. Everything seemed to be all over the place, but the workflow in Bitwig just seems to be so much more connected, and I gelled with it virtually straight away. Which is odd, really, because I did try Ableton at one point, but I couldn't get on with it. It's too cartoony for me, that.
Yeah.
Too monochrome.
Yeah.
It has
a nice colour in the Bitwig.
Has a bit of a Cubase-ish look to it, though. A little bit of a Cubase.
I was able to look like Lightwave, the old Lightwave 3D engine. So you guys use that program. It's a kind of interface.
Yeah.
By the way, this is the old one.
Can't know about.
But this is it's saying here you need to update it to 5 point, which I'll do later.
Yeah.
And but it's not massively different to this, is it? So
No, the polygrid though is amazing, and the effects grid.
Yeah.
And you can make them up and save them as a preset and just apply them to whatever you want, as many times as you want.
Yes, freedom of routing in Bitwig is the main thing, which is touted.
If you're into, I believe if you're into CV tools, it's pretty good as well.
Well, all that stuff kind of came as a response to Bitwig. You know,
you can integrate your modular with it through an ES9 as well, and expert sleepers. You can control everything in the modular in the Bitwig as well, and of course that's polyphonic.
And it doesn't need Max for Live to do that, right? It's all built in.
Yeah.
Which is good because you're not having to buy like an extra. You know how with Ableton you've got Ableton Standard, and then you've got Ableton Suite, and then if you don't buy Ableton Suite, you don't get Max for Live. So then you can either buy it separately or you have to get the Suite license, and the Suite license is pretty expensive.
Yeah.
So that would probably be, I don't know.
There was a loophole though. If you bought certain Ovation products at a certain time, you could get the Suite cheap, and that's what I did.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You get free 12 months updates as well if you buy Bitwig. I think the studio is like $4.99, I think it is, or $3.99, I think it is, something like that.
Sounds right.
It's still pricey-ish.
Oh yeah. But you get 12 months updates for free.
We do have an update about the Rion that we were asking. Wigoose actually found out. He's saying in chat that we were right. It was licensed by Roland, commissioned by Roland. And apparently this is the one that I showed on Reverb. The enhanced version of the original Rion Driftbox. That's why it got the Ira green stripes. Well, this has got the green indicators, like circles around the knobs. I don't know if that's the same thing that you're talking about, but yeah.
No, that's where I remembered something about flavors, because there was like a yellow one, I think, and the green one. There were a couple different versions of it. It's a long time ago, though.
But what did Roland give them? Did they give them the analog engine in it, or was it had nothing to do with them at all in terms of that, or other than that's kind of what I wanted to find out. Like what was the marriage with Roland? Was it like Maleko with their Eurorack? Was it, or is it a different thing? Yeah. Because I do remember at the time I was kind of keen on getting one, and then they discontinued them, and I thought, oh, why have they discontinued it? Typical Roland, right? Rob, you're sort of new to Ableton, aren't you? Your world is newish. How are you finding it?
Yeah, it's interesting. I first tried it, I think version 3. I think it was the first time I actually tried it, and I just couldn't. My brain didn't work with it, and I left it alone for a while. And I think I picked up something that came with Live Light, and thought, I'll give it a go. I'll give it another go, and no, it still couldn't do it. And then about a year or two ago, I thought I need to get it because certain things I'm reviewing need it, or there's a new version of it that So I invested, and I thought, sorry, I'll go for it and try it. And it started to make sense. I watched. There was a couple of videos. I'm trying to remember who they were, but there was one in particular that I followed, and it was just like there was a little light bulb moment, and right, now I kind of get that flow. Particularly with the linear one, the linear version is fine, but when you flip it around and using the clips and all that, and I also then invested in, if I can find the blooming thing, I don't know if the cable's long enough, but I invested in one of these Launchpad X, I think it is. And then it started to make even more sense and a little bit more, and so on and so forth, and I've used it for a few things, and sometimes if I have an idea, I'll go to that first. But I have to admit, even though I've got Live, I've got Logic, I've got Cubase. When I have an idea and I want to get it into a computer quickly before I forget it, I always go back to my old favorite, which is Reason.
Right.
Not gonna lie, it's still, I still keep it, I still pay for it, and it's still for me the most immediate, because you can literally just straight away turn it on, bang, get that idea down, then mess around with it, and then if I want to stick it into Logic or something else, then I can just either export the MIDI files and stick them into another DAW. And if I want to keep the synthesizers that I've used, if they're stock Reason things, well, of course, you got the Reason plugin now, so I can replicate all of the Reason stuff within another DAW. So it's quite a flexible thing. So yeah, I still kind of fall back to that. But yeah, I think every individual will find a DAW that works for their brain and the way their brain works, and maybe that will change over time. Maybe you'll adapt to one more than another throughout the course of your music making life. But I think, if anybody asks me, oh, what should I get for my son, he's just starting out in music, I said, get all the demos. Get all the demos and try them until one of them sticks, and the one that sticks, that's the one you invest in. And nowadays you can, thankfully, because I mean, there was a time when you couldn't even get a demo of Cubase or a demo of Logic. Now you can get a 90-day demo of Logic if you're on a Mac. And there's so many other options, freebie options, like if you've got a Mac, GarageBand is included. Reaper is not technically free, but you can use it as such, even though that has a slightly steeper learning curve. So yeah, there's something for everyone, but you need to spend a bit of time to find the right one, and then once you do, then you should, the one that sticks is the one that you go with.
I feel like Reason has gotten a lot of hate throughout the years.
Oh God, yeah.
I'm not sure why. I like, that was the first DAW that I ever used, and my friend uses it exclusively.
Yeah, it's because it was a sandboxed environment, and you couldn't use your own plugins.
VSTs.
Yeah, and that was the big thing with them for years and years and years. They said, no, we're going to stick with this because everything works and we know it works, and we've got it was kind of that Apple mentality of, a closed environment, and we won't let anybody else in. And then they just rack extensions.
There's nothing wrong with a closed environment, right?
No.
Like a lot of people, especially with analog, every analog instrument is a closed environment, right? So
yeah,
there's
absolutely.
people doing sets with just one drum machine. So if you like it and you're making good music on it, it doesn't, like, those factors don't really matter.
Exactly. But I think it got a lot of hate because you couldn't use other plugins. You couldn't use, if you bought the Roland Cloud or you bought into Korg legacy stuff, you couldn't use it in there because it just didn't work. And then they brought out rack extensions, which was like, well, okay, we'll open it up, but on our terms. And manufacturers, they gave all these developers the rack extension SDK and said, yeah, all you got to do is just take your existing code for a VST and you just stick it into our SDK and it spits it out in it sticks it out in in your format, and away you go. And of course it wasn't quite as easy as that. So
didn't they try Rewire with that before?
The Rewire thing, yeah.
Yeah, Rewire was okay, but it was a pain in the ass because you had to open one as a master, one as a slave, and it was
that's true.
So it was, and then eventually they just said, stuff it. We'll put it in. We'll put VST support in, but they're still dragging their heels because there's not full support for example, audio units. So you can now have VST2s and VST3s, but I think I'm right in thinking that audio units, or there's something that wasn't around, and so I just think it got a reputation as being a bit of a toy. And when you actually look at who uses it, Beastie Boys were using Reason for many years, but they were using it as an instrument rather than a DAW. So they would create all their beats and breaks in there, and then just plug it in.
That's what I see it as, more of an instrument, right? Like it has a different sound than the other DAWs. Like it has an interesting, like unique sound. Like my friend's music, his music sounds like no one else's sound. So like he puts out beats and everyone's like, well, how do you do that? And it's basically he's just using a different system than like what's traditional. You know, everyone is trying to adapt into it, and he just started there. So for him it doesn't matter. He's just using, like, it's just like any other thing, right? Like you mentioned the Pet Shop Boys and how they were like using specific instruments on tour, right? And it gets a specific sound, and any sound can be good as long as you're creative. You know, and then if you're creative and you're putting out stuff that is different, that's normally what sets you apart, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Liam Howlett did the whole Prodigy album on Reason, you know.
Yeah.
I used to like the Thor and the Maelstrom synthesizers in Reason. It was great.
Yeah, there's some good stuff.
Even the Reason mobile app is pretty decent. You know, it's much reduced, but it's pretty fun to tinker with.
They've not had great success.
It's like Ableton Note, but not as fancy as Ableton Note. Yeah. But it's
I just got to go and take
also Rebirth. Can't forget about Rebirth. That was amazing when it came out.
I like the fact that
wondering when someone would mention that.
I like the fact that you can use Reason on Linux. So if you're getting sick of all the commercial operating systems, you can run Reason on Linux. I mean, you still need a license for it, which is cheap anyway.
Obviously, the big problem is people are trying to recreate sounds a lot of times. You know, like a lot of people they buy an instrument in order to recreate a sound of a popular song that they've heard, right? Where Reason isn't really doing that well.
I'd see that. I probably wouldn't be using Reason for that either. So that, like, my logic would say, okay, I need to recreate Enya.
Exactly.
You know, I just picked up a stupid one. I need to go and use Reason for that, because you wouldn't. You know, you'd grab a VST or DX7 probably.
But I feel like that's a big part of the market are people that are trying to do that. They like a certain type of music and they want to emulate. You know, that's a big part of what this market is, I find.
Yeah,
I think you're right there.
I also had a big chuckle when I first launched Reason, like version 2 or 3, whatever it was, a long time ago. I had a good chuckle because, as a Shining fan, red drum, read drum, you know, similar fun.
Yeah,
red drum.
I used to like flipping the rack around and seeing the cables move on the back of the tab key.
That was cool.
I was wondering when someone mentioned the user interface. It's one of the uniquest things.
You move the mouse across the cables and they kind of twiddle a little bit.
Yeah, but it was one of those things where I wondered if that was something also that led to the hate of it, because people thought it looked too kind of cartoony and not professional. Because there is a certain aesthetic to the. Yeah, there is.
It was very skeuomorphic. It was clever, visually clever. Because you know, if you ever had any experience with physical rack stuff, you know, you could go, okay, well, that's my module. I need to route that to the chorus effect, and then just literally put a virtual patch cable in. I thought that was genius because it was so simple. You didn't need to
hit a button, have it flip, and then you could quickly just have to walk behind your stuff.
You've got to hand it to the guy, to the company, for sticking to that paradigm and not saying, oh, do you know what, let's do that in the next version, let's do a ground up rebuild and we'll make it more like the others. No, they said, we stick with this is what we're known for. And you know, they've taken a lot of flack over the years for, you know, not introducing features where other, you know, DAWs have introduced them, and you know, admittedly the editing tools on the sequencer in Reason up until very recently weren't the best in the world. You could do so much more with Cubase and Logic, and Reason was a little bit stunted in that regard. But they've added, and they slowly add, and it's. I mean, I made that kind of reference to Apple. You know, Tim Cook recently said, you know, we might not be the first when it comes to innovations within our particular field. And that's because we want to try and do it the best. And I think that's kind of what the reason ethos is that, you know, when we do introduce a feature, we'll introduce it when it absolutely works the way, you know, people want it to work. And it's one of those applications that very rarely has any major technical issues. You know, there's very few. I mean, yes, there are bug fixes that go out there, but it's got a long history of it being just really effing solid, especially the early versions before they introduced, you know, the audio recording and stuff. Really, absolutely solid and would never crash. And so, you know, but I think for me, it was just the workflow, the fact that I can, you know, as soon as it runs up, I can just, boom, I can get that idea, whether it's a melody or a chord pattern or something, and it just goes in very quickly, and then I can just mess around with the sounds and the effects, and then get where I want to go quickly. Whereas I always used to find that firing up Logic and Cubase, especially the old versions of Cubase I used to use, it was just not that. So, yes.
I think for a young person that doesn't have any experience with production, Reason's a good place to start.
Yeah.
You just pick a sound and pick a drum machine and go at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where machine.
For a professional that you're looking to do something specific, you know, that's maybe not the best spot, right? But for a young person, like especially me as a young person, I really enjoyed using it, and we made some sweet stuff. Like, just a lot of making stuff is you listen to the sound that's already there, and you go from it. It's like, oh, how's this gonna work, right? Instead of having the sound in mind and trying to get it on there. So.
Yeah. No, I think nowadays, like, I don't know what it's like anywhere else, and whether this is just local to us, but, you know, my son recently finished his mainstream education, and he'd been doing music technology at GCSE level, and then he went on to get his A level, his BTEC diplomas in it. And from the outset, you know, the school have got you know, I don't know, a dozen iMacs around the edge of the room, all installed with Logic, all installed with Ableton, and that's where they started, and that's where he's now, and he probably could navigate around Logic better than I can, which is awfully embarrassing. But it's, you know, they're brought up with it from the get-go, whereas us old folk, you know, we weren't so fortunate. You know, we didn't have computers and doors at school, so we did have to wait until we had enough money to buy something, and then you have to buy the right one. Because, you know, they're not cheap, and I think, yeah, Reason is a good place to start for a lot of people, because you don't need anything else, but you can add to it now, thankfully. But, you know, it in and of itself, it's a very self-contained unit. But then nowadays, most DAWs come with, you know, instruments and samplers and sample packs, and you know, you can get going very quickly. So, like I said, for me, if anybody asks me, what should I get my son or daughter or whatever, you know, where should I start? And I just say, just download all the demos and then install them, either all of them or one by one, and then let them loose on it. And the one that they spend the most time with and the one they're most productive with is probably the one that is suiting them, and let them, you know, go with that.
Yeah, exactly. Start with something free.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I wonder if it's the reason. I'm just wondering if that's the reason why subscription model's so popular now, other than the conspiracy theory where with you know, manufacturers finding the most profitable way of getting money out of us. But there's the whole, the younger generations are probably much more interested in not committing to things to find out what works for them. So they'd rather, whereas our generation was a bit more into doing your research and then making a good decision. And we felt good about when we made a good decision, and we were very hard on ourselves when we don't make a good decision. Whereas the younger generations are much less fearful of that kind of, you know, psychology, because they're just like, well, it's fine, we'll just try this, and if it doesn't work, it's a subscription model, I'll just change next month to a different software, and that's
I think it depends.
Subscription models.
I think it depends on what type of community you're involved in. Like, so for instance, Rob was saying his son is like super adept at Logic, so his community, they're all going to be educated. But if you're not educated and you need to learn on your own, it really doesn't matter what you start on, right? It's like buying a drum kit, like or a guitar. A lot of people that get really good, they start on a crappy guitar, a crappy drum kit, and they work with what they have. And then there's a lot of people, but basically it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you start on, as long as you get your foot in the door, right? You make mistakes and you learn from all your mistakes.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then as time goes by, you take that step to get into another community, and if you have the experience on one, it transfers over, right? So it really doesn't matter as long as you're getting experience.
Yeah. I think today the transition from one platform to another is a lot easier than it used to be, because there are many similarities between, Cubase, Logic, even to a degree, Live and Bitwig. Some of them, use the traditional linear. Some of them use clip-based. Some of them use both. Logic has clip-based technology in there as well. So, if you started on Ableton but you find yourself moving towards Logic for whatever reason, you can still jump into a clip-based environment within Logic. So, yeah, it's probably easier to transition from one platform to another, certainly today. And you're right about subscriptions. You can try the demos, but maybe after 30 days, or you get annoyed with that piece of white noise that pops up every 5 minutes. Well, then, $19.99 for a month of whatever platform it is you're looking for. Most people probably think, well, that's not a bad, return on investment, because I'll get a month of, just the whole thing. And if I like it, I can buy another month. Or in the case of Reason, you can decide whether you go subscription or perpetual license. So there are choices. So it's kids these days don't know how good they've got it.
I've stuck with Ableton. Like when I first used DAWs, my first DAW was Cakewalk. And so we're going back to a long time ago here. And then sort of early mid 2000s, I started using Ableton, and I've stuck with it. But I have to admit, there was one really big frustration I had with Ableton in the early days, and that was that it had a really bad MIDI implementation. The MIDI implementation of Ableton used to lack things like being able to send CC messages out. Like you could do it with plugins and Max for Live and things like that, but it just wasn't really like in its core, and it should have always been. And I felt like it was probably only recently where I feel like Ableton have now just kind of mastered the MIDI stuff. And a lot of people will still say that there's still a few things missing, but now it's only just sort of come to age with MIDI, which is kind of frustrating. But if you don't really need that, because I mean I've got a lot of hardware gear here, so I got around it with using hardware with MIDI controllers that I could edit CC messages on the screen without having to touch a computer, things like that. You can get around things like that. But yeah, I feel like Cubase had always had a really big embracement of MIDI and MIDI control, and I felt like it was done so much better than any of the other DAWs that I used. So when I was progressing from Cakewalk across, I actually found myself using Cubase, because I had Cubase as well from the early days, and so I was familiar with it, but I found myself using Cubase and Ableton for two separate reasons. So if I was doing MIDI-based arrangement, I found Cubase to be so much easier with notation and everything. And then if I was doing, like Robbie was saying, if I was doing sample-based arrangement clips, Ableton was so good at doing that because it was the workflow side of it. It was just very seamless. Like you wouldn't lose your beat. It would keep everything in sync. It was done really well. And I think Logic in the earlier days was really bad at that sort of stuff. So I think even still to this day, if you ask people, I think all DAWs have something that they really are good at. Like you guys were talking about Reason, what it's good at. I think you can still probably give each of them a label and say, look, I think Ableton are good at clips, Reason are good at, unique sort of sounds and that sort of stuff. You could say what's Logic good at? Probably ease of use, I guess. A lot of people would say to me that Logic's probably very simple to get onto.
Good recorder too.
Yeah.
You can use Logic a lot. A lot of people use Logic as a multi-track recorder.
I use it primarily for editing podcasts and all that. It's just I can fly around that and just chop things up and mess around. Really,
it's very fast
editing. So the ease of use. Yep. A lot of people say to me that Studio Live from PreSonus is really good for mastering and mixing because it comes from a company that makes mixers and
that makes
preamps.
sense,
So they were very good at that stuff. And also if you were kind of from a Pro Tools sort of way, and you sort of you got completely butthurt with the way Pro Tools treated their customers. A lot of people jumped ship from Pro Tools and went probably either to Cubase permanently or they went to Studio Live because of the way it handled. But I think like very high end studios would still have just hung on to Pro Tools because they had no choice. So I know a lot of people who jumped from Pro Tools to Studio One. And never looked back. Yep. And it saved some money too. Yeah. I felt Bitwig was really good for that, like we were talking before, like that that boutique sort of stuff, like if you want to do CV control or someone in chat's mentioned it's good for sound design. Not sure, because I haven't tried it for that, but I'll take his word for it. I thought Ableton's got some good synth engines in it. I think all the DAWs have got some good ones. So, yeah. I mean, don't forget too, Cubase was the original VST DAW, so that's where it's all come from. Yeah.
You even had a product called Cubase VST, right?
Yeah, that's the one I had. Yeah.
I bought my first PC version of Cubase. It was version 3. And within about 6 months, they'd gone to Cubase VST, so I got the grace period upgrade to Cubase VST. Sadly, my PC didn't have enough grunt, even for those basic, was it VB1, the virtual bass guitar, and it was just really?
I remember that.
Stick with my synths. They'll be fine. It was a while before I had a PC that was capable of running decent VST plugins and then doing audio as well. So
I think the original Cubase was on Atari, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, there was
Steinberg Pro 12.
Steinberg.
They did their first. I think Steinberg's first computer sequencer was on a Commodore 64.
Yeah.
64.
That's actually not that well known though. That one,
no.
But I do know what you're talking about.
Cubase was started in ST, right? Wasn't Cubase launched?
Atari ST, yeah, because it had the native. It had the native MIDI I/O in it.
Steinberg Pro
MP
12,
401.
Steinberg Pro 24.
So.
Yeah, Pro 12.
Yeah.
My first sequencer ever was Electro Sound on the Commodore 64, and it was a 3-channel. So talk about sandbox. There was obviously no MIDI. It was just a 3-channel sequencer that used the SID chip, the 3 channels of the SID chip, and so you got very adept at which note on this do I drop out so that I can use that one and not break up the flow or the groove of something. And I used to program stuff on that and thought it sounded amazing, but obviously it was a SID chip. But back then at 14, 15 years old, it's just I can program music on a computer. I've got a fair life.
One of the best ones is still used by people is Paul Slocum's Synth Card. Synth Card is really cool. On the C64 and
Rob Hubbard used that sequencer, Rob.
Yes.
He used the exact same thing. He wrote a lot of the tunes on it because you exported it as a SID file, and then you literally just pop the SID file into your game engine. And we used to do this as kids, right? 14-year-old kids hacking our games. So we used to edit the game files, take the SID file out that was properly supposed to be for that game and put a different SID file in, so you're playing a game with the wrong music in it and stuff.
So did
like
anyone
that.
have the game Mario Paint for Super Nintendo?
No.
Yeah, we had that. Yeah.
Mario Paint has a sequencer in it. So that would be my first sequencer,
I didn't know that.
actually.
I did not
I'm
know
pretty
that.
sure it has a
Yeah,
music
it was
program.
fun.
Yeah.
The music thing, yeah.
Cool.
And then they made Wii Music, which is terrible.
Do you remember, what was it? Music 2000 on PlayStation 1.
Yeah, I remember that.
Remember that?
Yeah.
I had a guy at work who knew I was into it. By the time that came out, I was, heavily into Cubase and got my own little setup. And I remember he came in one day, he says, "Have a listen to this." And I put it on. I thought, "This sounds really good. What are you using?" He says, "PlayStation." I thought, "What?" He said, "Yeah, Music 2000." And then, of course, I looked at it. It's just like, "Oh, well, I have this clip and I have that clip and I'll string them all together and it sounds amazing." And I was like, "Really? That's cheating." Curses on you.
I modded
Game
my
Boy had a fun
PlayStation.
little sequencer too for mobile stuff. Forgot what it was called, but there's a hack of it out there somewhere. But
yeah, a lot of the Nintendo stuff is now you can find emulators for it, and you can chuck it on just about anything. Like I was looking at the Polyend tracker and how you can actually play Nintendo games on it. It's pretty cool.
The tables have turned.
It was called Nano something.
If you get sick of making music, you can play some games.
I have to look into that.
Yeah.
I don't need any more distractions for not making music.
I got to run because it's my wedding anniversary weekend, and we're having a special
congrats.
dinner tonight. So
we're gonna finish the stream now too. Anyway,
cool.
It's pumpkin time for us. It's
remember our
midnight
clocks go
here.
back tomorrow tonight.
Goody.
Our clocks go back round, so.
Oh yes.
Okay, so that means for you guys the show will be starting earlier, I think. So you guys at the moment are starting at 2, so it'll be starting at 1 for you guys.
Next week.
And then the Americans go back the week later because they're just awkward.
Because we actually
all have to be different.
We don't observe daylight savings at all here where I live.
No,
it's because we're smart. Because we don't believe in paint fading and things like that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, absolutely.
All right, guys. Well,
we
don't burn out.
I just looked it up. It's Nanoloop. If you have a Game Boy, look up Nanoloop. It's a cool little sequencing program.
Before everyone disappears on us, it's the end of the show. So thanks for everyone for joining, especially the Zoom guest, Robbie, and he's already left. So that's why he's in frozen mode. Steve as well. Thanks for hanging around, mate. Nice to have you. And also Ian for popping in briefly. That was nice to see Ian. Don't forget to press record. We're talking about DAWs and stuff like that. Make sure you press record, guys.
Back to the workshop for me.
Yeah, enjoy. I'm going to be playing with my COBOL expander a little bit more during the week.
Enjoy. It is a hell of a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's a great little synth. Honestly, if you've got a spare £175, go and buy yourself one. It's worth every cent. It's really cool. All right. On that note, we shall bid farewell to
Randy, does it come with cables, real quick?
2. Not enough.
2 cables.
Cobalt
cables.
cables.
No,
2 cables.
Comes with cobols. Comes with cobols, not cables.
and you know what? It's called an expander, and those cables need to be longer, so the cables need to be expanded.
Yeah, they need to expand.
Anyway, but we won't go there. All right, guys. See you later.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye. See you guys.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.